Good morning. Well, it's almost afternoon. It's sort of a good midday situation, and this is a Planet Doug behind the scenes video for Friday, June 13th, 2025. And it's kind of an experimental behind the scenes video. You'd think after 5 years I'd have a pattern on YouTube. I think it's been 5 years that I've been doing this, and you'd think I have fallen into a rhythm and a pattern, but I still keep experimenting, doing different things. And I say it's an experimental video because normally I'll go out and shoot a Planet Doug video, and then the next day perhaps I wake up in the morning and sit here on my hotel bed and I record a behind the scenes video of the making of the Planet Doug video. But this time I'm going to make the Planet Doug behind the scenes video before I shoot the actual Planet Doug video. I don't know why. I'm just in the mood to babble, I guess, just to talk. And so I'm on my way to shoot a video. I'm actually going to the A&W in Petaling, Jaya. And I want lunch, so I'm actually going to go there and have lunch, and I'm kind of want to have a frosty root beer, so I'm interested in that. But this A&W outlet in Petaling Jaya, I think, was the very first one in Malaysia, I think. If not the very first outlet, it is, I think, the first one to have an established drive-thru. And I think it was a very popular A&W for many, many years in Petaling Jaya, with young people, with families celebrating birthdays. Anyway, it's a big part of the history of Petaling Jaya, and I walked by the A&W outlet many, many times, and the building looks interesting. It actually looks so old and so vintage, I thought it was abandoned. I didn't even think it was open, but people have been telling me, yeah, it's open and you should go check it out. So that's what I'm doing. And in the old days, like the Planet Doug days, I would start recording the video in my hotel room, record the whole journey to get there, then have the A&W experience. But for Planet Doug, I'm just going to have the A&W experience as a shorter video, and then this behind the scenes video is going to encapsulate the whole experience. So why am I doing it this way? I couldn't even tell you. You just, on YouTube, you just keep trying out different video styles, different subjects, throwing it at YouTube and seeing what sticks. But anyway, I'm here in my hotel room at the Swing and Pillows Hotel. I moved from the J Hotel Masjid, India, into this one, again, just as an experiment. Try something new. And I showed some of this hotel room in my previous behind the scenes video, in fact. And now it's a little bit more disheveled, a little bit more lived in, as you can see. My bed here, and the pillows part of the name is accurate because I booked a single room. I thought there'd be like one narrow single bed, like living like a monk, but I have a double bed and have 4 pillows. And normally I sit here, my laptop is tucked away inside my laptop bag, but normally I'm sitting here leaning against those pillows and I'm typing away on my laptop over there. And I found out one good thing about this room. It actually does have a second electrical outlet behind the bedside table, so I can plug in my power strip or whatever you call these things. And this is the 100-watt charger that I run my laptop off now, and I have this special 100-watt power cable as well. And it's actually quite long. I bought this cable special because you have to buy a special cable to deliver 100 watts of power, and this one is like 10 feet long. So it's a very, very handy cable. Something else that's kind of big and heavy to carry around, but is very convenient because then you can run that cable across the whole room to wherever your laptop is, and I end up using it all the time. And this room comes with a desk, and it comes with its own kettle that I'm using. And you can see some of my staples. I love cornflakes. I love Coke of any variety, Coca-Cola, and my instant coffee. And I am a huge milk drinker, as you can see. And there's a 7-Eleven right beside this hotel. And I got that liter of Good Day milk from there. And I can often get this like a liter of milk for about 6.5 ringgit. And then I have it with my cornflakes as a snack from time to time. And some days I'll have a bowl, or actually I don't have a bowl, but I'll have a cup or two of cornflakes with milk, and that's all I'll eat for the entire day. It's kind of a routine of mine. I don't find I have to eat big meals every day. And in fact, yesterday I had lunch, like a big lunch, at a restaurant right beside this hotel. It's a Pakistani restaurant, and out on the, actually in the elevator here, I'll show you the menu for this place, for their special combos. And I walked by it a couple of times and I thought, oh, I should have something to eat there. And I did go there yesterday, and I was kind of boring. I actually ordered biryani, and I had a nice biryani with naan bread. And I didn't shoot any video of the meal, but I did take a couple of pictures, as you can see. So that was my lunch from yesterday. Big and filling. And with the naan bread and the Coke, it came to 29 ringgit. So it's a little bit of an expensive meal for a Planet Doug. But yeah, I needed a bit. That was my only meal for the whole day. So yeah, it kind of works out. And I wanted to try out this restaurant. So yeah. Other stories about this room. I found that the shower head, this often happens, was not very satisfying because the water came out in just 4 or 5 of these little holes, and they were like needle pricks. And yet there's many, many more holes on the outside and on this inner circle. So I spent some time, I end up doing things like this all the time in budget hotels. It was hard to do, but I unscrewed the cover, and then I opened the whole thing up and I cleaned out the inside because all of these holes were blocked by just gunk that had built up over the years. So now I get a much nicer flow of water out of this thing. But these little holes in the middle, no water will come out of those. And I've opened it up a second time and I've tried to clean out I can't figure out why. So in fact, the water flow on this shower is not very good. It just comes from these holes on the outside, and they are kind of like little needle pricks. And I want a bigger, fuller flow, a gentler flow. So I want water to come out of these holes as well in the middle. But I can't get water to flow. So I'm still trying to figure out the engineering, how I can do that. And when I was staying in Port Dickson, at a like sort of a rented room, I also had trouble with the shower head, and it was actually the tube that was broken. The seal wasn't good, and I just went to DIY and I just bought a brand new shower head and installed it. And it's easier than contacting the landlords and saying, oh, the shower doesn't work, can you come and fix it? And you end up in these days of communication. I just go out for a couple of ringgit, I'll buy a shower head and install it. But yeah. Anyway, so that's life here at the Pillow and Swings. What a crazy name. I can never quite remember the name of this hotel. But yeah, I'm pretty comfortable here, having a good time. So let's head out. I got to bring my card, of course. All the power comes from the card, and then take the elevator down. I'm in the elevator heading down, and I just wanted to show you the sign for this restaurant, Asmara, and they have these combo offers. And they also have like motorcycles, scooter rentals, things like that. So I'm just outside of the Swing and Pillows. I get the name wrong all the time. I can't get it sunk into my head. Yeah, really nice front desk staff. They're very, very friendly, very chatty, and since I'm on my way to A&W, I was telling her all about my plans for the day. And then this is the restaurant that I mentioned, where every bite tells a story of the East. And I didn't know from the outside, but on the menu it says Pakistani. So it is a Pakistani restaurant, and they have all of their combo meals listed here. And I went in there intending to get one of the combos because they're a better value, I guess. But I ended up getting biryani and ordering from the menu itself. Yeah, cool place. And then, as I said, right beside Swing and Pillows, there is a 7-Eleven. Unfortunately, it's not a 24-hour one. It opens at 7 in the morning. And apparently this hotel used to be called Adia. They still have the sign up there. They haven't taken it down. And then I guess someone else bought it, part of the Swing and Pillows chain. But originally this was Adia Hotel. And they have about 60 rooms. And I was told that some of the rooms on the upper floors are like long-term rentals. So you can actually get a 1 week, 1 month rental. That's what someone told me. Or maybe it's these ones here, the lower ones. They look like apartments. But yeah, I'm on the 5th floor. 1, 2, 3. I guess I'm on the top floor. But I don't have any windows, so I don't really know where I am. So this whole, I know this neighborhood quite well. It's Little India, but not the Brickfields one. This is the Muslim Little India near Masjid Jamak. And so I was reading this sign the other day. It was quite interesting. This is Malay Street, Jalan Melayu, and it gives the history of it. And it was named for the original Malay settlers who settled here, and they opened up a lot of cloth, like fabric stores. So if you go down in my usual route, if you go down in here and turn left, there's like fabric store after fabric store after fabric store. They've all been here for many, many decades. But I think to get to the LRT station, I've never done it before. I haven't done this walk from my new hotel to the LRT station. Oh, but there's the LRT line up there. So I think I can just go here, turn left on the main road. I just haven't come this way before. Beautiful sunny day. There's a bit of an odd mood in my head surrounding this video project, like going to A&W to try out the root beer, because there have been so many big stories breaking online, and I don't generally talk about politics, things like that, but man, everything happening right now. Oh, what the heck is going on over here? There's a whole bunch of tents set up over there. Food tents and things like that. If I wasn't on my way to A&W with a definite plan, I guess I'd go have my lunch over there. There must be food. But anyway, here's the main road, and there's the Masjid Jamak LRT station. That's where I'm going. But yeah, recently we had the big drone attack. It's called Spiderweb. Ukraine launched this massive drone attack in Russia, and that's been dominating the news. And it kind of got pushed off the headlines a little bit when the plane, the Boeing Dreamliner, crashed in India. So that was all over the news yesterday, last night. And then I woke up this morning to all the big stories about the Israeli strikes in Iran, which seems absolutely huge. They attacked all of Iran's nuclear sites. I mean, these are all brand new stories, so I don't really know a lot about what's going on, but it seems like a major attack involving not only the missile strikes, but also assassinations. A lot of assassinations of Iran's nuclear scientists and people involved in the nuclear program. It's just, my head was spinning when I saw that story. So I only mention these because it sets up a weird dichotomy or a weird tension where you've got all these huge stories of important things going on around the world. And what am I doing today for my YouTube channel? I'm going to go have some frosty root beer. You know what I mean? It's like, why are you worrying about A&W and root beer with all these other big stories going on? But yeah, here I am on my way to A&W. But I've often thought about this in my life thematically. Let's see if I can make any sense of this. That when I was younger, my idea was I would eventually work in international development. I've talked about this before, where as a career path, I wanted to basically help poor people around the world. That was sort of the mood in Canada back in the 70s and 80s. The world was a very different place back then. Even countries here in Southeast Asia, we viewed them as traditional farming countries, very, very poor places that needed our help. Of course, the whole world has shifted now, and all of these countries like Malaysia and Thailand, Vietnam, they've just turned into economic powerhouses all on their own. So the world has shifted on its axis from that point of view. But I remember back in those days, give me a minute here, I got to think about which train I have to take. Yeah, I know what train to take. I just had to stop for just a second, make sure I don't go in the wrong direction completely. When you're filming with a GoPro, your brain stops working. I start tripping, things like that. But yeah, I'm heading into the LRT station now. Let me navigate this and I'll be right back. Inside the LRT station on the escalator. And yeah, what I was just saying is that once you get involved in the whole field, say, of international development, the idea of helping people, and then that kind of bleeds into all of these like social issues. Everyone's trying to save the environment. Back in the 70s and 80s, world overpopulation was a big topic, and it feels like the only thing a good and moral person could do in life is help other people. That's what you should do. But then you eventually run into this logical problem where if the only good thing to do is help other people, if everybody should be helping everybody else, there's nobody left just to live an ordinary, good, enjoyable life, if you see what I mean. I don't know if that logic makes any sense, but I remember, I went to Ethiopia at one point on sort of like a cycling trip, and I met a lot of people there, a lot of teachers, and at that, people viewed me as a wealthy person because I was from Canada, which I was not in any way. But it did seem like I had access to more resources than the average Ethiopian. Anyway, I got to know people quite well. They became friends of mine. And then they did, when I got back to Canada, ask me for help. Like, can you send me some money? And the amount of money they were asking for was not like a huge amount of money. And I kind of cobbled it together. And then I sent them something like $300, this one guy. And then, like when he sent me the request, he was talking about going to school, needing money for tuition, for books, for things like that. And then I sent him the money, and then he ended up buying a big television with some of the money that I sent him. And then you might think that's kind of weird. Like, well, if I send you money, you should use it for good things, not buying a TV. But at the same time, well, that's part of life. Why not buy a TV? Makes his life better. His friends come over, watch TV. His kids get to watch TV. So what I'm saying is that there's nothing wrong with enjoying life. Like if you get so caught up in all the problems of the world, like what I just mentioned, the attacks on Iran by Israel, the plane crash in India, the war, Ukraine, Russia, and then you start to feel guilty that, well, you should be out there trying to fix all these problems. But let's assume all the problems in the world were fixed, then what would people do? Well, they would enjoy themselves and they'd go to A&W for a frosty root beer. Like, the goal behind fixing all the world's problems is so that we just enjoy life. So there's nothing wrong, I'm saying, with going to A&W for a frosty root beer. So that was a long detour to get to that point. But yeah, I was just talking about this weird tension between all these huge stories I'm seeing in the media right now, and then what I'm spending my time today is shooting a video about going to A&W for root beer. But yeah, when you're traveling, you want to investigate local history, and A&W is not exactly local food, obviously. It started as American fast food, but I mean, Malaysia adopted it as well, so it's part of Malaysia's culture, Malaysia's history as well. So, and I love old buildings, so I'm mainly interested in the building itself, the old vintage A&W with the drive-thru structure. That's mainly what I'm interested in. So I'm in the LRT station on the platform and about to head south to Taman Jaya.
Central Blackwood, connecting station to MRT Kajang Line, teow Monorail Line, KTM, and ERL. Sila beri tempat duduk anda kepada wanita mengandung, warga emas, dan orang kurang stesen berikutnya. Kerinci. Next station, Kerinci.
Just arrived at the Taman Jaya LRT station. There's my train behind me, and there's my goal for this trip, the A&W. I mean, yeah, look at that place. I read somewhere online, I was doing a little bit of reading, and they said something about the A&W being remodeled and rebuilt and renovated, but I don't see any evidence of that. It looks pretty vintage to me. It looks original. But yeah, that's where I'm going to be going for lunch. But I'm going to do a couple other things before I head in that direction. But yeah, I've been at this LRT station quite a few times, and 2 times quite recently, where I made a big deal out of how I cannot find the exit, like the normal way to exit the station and go down the stairs to the streets. I could never ever find it. But last time when I returned to this station, I could see it from the outside. I've never seen it from the inside, but I saw the outside, so I know it exists. So today what I want to do is finally find the doorway to the stairs and try and figure out why I missed it so many other times. Like, why don't I ever see it? How do I keep walking right by it? But anyway, let's see if I can find it this time. So this is the upper platform where you go in, and then when you come out, you got that on the right. And then over here, I kept trying to go to the left because I want to cross this road, but there's nothing here. So clearly there's no exit in that direction. So I have to go in this direction. And we're still on an upper floor. There's no exit here. I know there is an elevator. That could probably take me all the way down to the ground floor, but I don't know if that gets me to the street. So this is where I end up going. Like the last time I found these stairs, and these stairs take you here to the bus station. And then I got down there, and then it's all sealed by fences all the way around. So the only way to get out was to go all the way to the end and then down the ramp. Like, it's a traffic ramp. There's no room for pedestrians, but that's how I exited last time. And the first time I came here, I went in this direction where that man is, and there's a gate there through the fence. And then the gate goes to this big apartment complex and a parking lot. And I had to walk like half a kilometer to the far end of the parking lot before I could go down and then return. So from this perspective, you know, nothing made sense. So here are the stairs where you go down. There are no escalators here at all, which is interesting. The last time I came back to this station, there was an older man in front of me, walking ahead of me, and then I was right behind him the whole way going up these stairs. And by the time we got to the top, he was huffing and puffing and holding on the railing. Like, yeah, a lot of stairs to get up here because there's no escalators at all. So anyway, I think I know where it is now, and let's see why I always missed it. So first time I went through that gate, and then the second time I went there, out the platform, and I looked in here. I went way over there. I couldn't find an exit. I think I went in here, and I couldn't find an exit. And I thought, there's nothing here. And then I turned around and went out, but this is where it is. So that's the door I kept missing for some reason. I just never saw it. Maybe it was blocked by this red tape when I was here last time. I don't remember that. Okay, but this is the way you're supposed to exit from this station. And it's the only exit. It's the only entrance and the only exit. Hello there, pigeons. But yeah, it's a bit of a struggle. Even these stairs are kind of oddly slanted. So like I said, the older man ahead of me really had a hard time getting up all of these stairs until they finally got to the platform. So, mystery solved. And here is the only way in and out of this station. The only one. It's kind of interesting. Has an odd design. So, before I go to A&W, what I want to do is cross the street and go to the Amcorp Mall, because that's where the flea market is. And I just realized, oh, there's A&W right here. So I'm right in front of the A&W, but because it's lunchtime and it's going to be busier, I want to wait until the lunch rush is over. So I'm heading across the street to the flea market. And the reason I'm doing that is when I went there last time, I completely missed the basement. And the basement is where all of the electronics are supposed to be, cameras and things like that. So just for fun, I'm going to, I don't know if Friday is a good day to go to the flea market. Maybe it's not as busy as Saturdays and Sundays. But I'm going to pop inside and go down to the basement. I had one thought when I was on the LRT. I keep wondering when I'm going to be old enough or frail enough to get a seat, because it was a little bit busy today. Most of the seats were taken. There were just like a couple of openings here and there. And I generally can't sit down at those times because there's always somebody who needs a seat more than I do. So for example, if I'm sitting down and a woman comes on, I pop up and give her my seat. That's just natural. So if there's any women in need of a seat, then I don't sit down. Then that almost never happens, right? And then, of course, if you are seated and then someone who's elderly gets on or has suitcases or children or a lot of packages, then you give up your seat for them as well. So unless the train is completely empty, I never sit down. So I do wonder sometimes, do I have to get into my 70s or 80s and I've got a walker, and then when I get on the train, I will finally feel comfortable that I have a right to a seat and younger people can get up for me. But I mean, technically, I'm in my 60s now. I'm elderly. I should be able to, I should have no issues with sitting down, right? But I don't feel comfortable sitting down because there's always people who need the seat more than I do, so I never sit. And random babbling thoughts like that is why this is a behind-the-scenes video and not a main video. You're not going to hear itchy boots with 600,000 views, a million views, talking about things like this. She doesn't waste people's time like I do. But yeah, this is the entrance to the mall, and it's clearly not... I was here on a Sunday last time, and it was much, much busier. So I don't know that I'm going to really discover anything new. Yeah, I was told that Friday is also flea market day, but clearly it isn't. No, it's not even flea market day. So maybe my information was wrong, because tomorrow and Sunday, this whole area will be filled with flea market stalls, and there's nothing here today. So yeah, I definitely saw it online. Originally on my video when I was talking, I said the flea markets are on Saturday and Sunday. That's what I said. But then I corrected myself with a caption, because I saw a lot of websites saying that it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I corrected and said, oh, it's also on Friday, but apparently not. Anyway, there must be a escalator going down. That's what people told me. But yeah, you can see why this mall is kind of a flea market mall. And so we've got a bookstore here, which where else would you ever see used books in a shopping mall? Because there's no way a used bookstore could actually pay the normal rental fee at a popular shopping mall. So it's kind of interesting. It looks like it's not staffed. Looks like they've had a lot of trouble with shoplifters here. They actually have a photo of a guy. You are no longer welcome, sir. I guess he keeps stealing books. And they have a big sign here saying that you have to pay the price on the tag of the book, and you're being watched by CCTV. So, yeah, I love books. I've lived a life of reading until I became a YouTuber, and then I just stopped reading completely. So that's kind of been a negative impact on my life of YouTube. But yeah, when was the last time I even held a book like this? I used to spend so much time in used bookstores all over the world. So there's a price, 10 ringgit, 10 ringgit. So these are the marked prices. Paul Theroux. Travel writing, 85 to 2000. The days of travel books. I miss them, to be honest, I really do. It was a world I understood. The world of modern travel, modern YouTube travel, I don't understand it. I'm way out of my element. The world has changed so much. I almost want to buy that, get some inspiration. But I remember those days, those years, those decades, in fact, back in Canada, reading travel books. And there were relatively few of them. There weren't that many authors doing this kind of what you might call adventure travel. Not tourism, but traveling the world back in the days when it was more difficult. And you got the feeling that not many people were doing it. It was something very special. And then even when I went off on a couple of my trips, I had the feeling of doing something very unusual. And I didn't see any other people when I was traveling. Today, of course, it's a way of life for hundreds of thousands, millions of people maybe, I don't even know. So the exclusive feeling of like a Paul Theroux traveling around the world, his famous books, Riding the Iron Rooster and things like that. I remember them so clearly, but now that kind of travel is just ordinary and it's so much easier to do. But anyway, I did find the escalator that goes to the basement. And normally basements are where the food court is. And I guess when there's a flea market, that's where all the cameras and electronics are. So I don't know if there's another level below this one, but I'm guessing this is where the tech vendors would be on Saturday and Sunday, but there's nobody here now. Yeah, it's the lunchtime rush. Every place is busy. But even without the flea market, you still get the vintage collectibles vibe of this shopping mall. Looks like this place is a kind of a flea market all by itself. They're selling vinyl albums, furniture. I'm guessing that Saturday and Sunday this store would actually open up a table or a stall out there. I think it might even be this table. I think I recognize that typewriter. Might have been the one thing that I saw. But yeah, vintage collectibles. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say antiques. I guess that depends on the age of the items. The front part of a Volkswagen. I just chatted with the staff here to see if it's okay if I film inside here a little bit. And he said, yeah, it's no problem at all. So I think I should show the name of the place. So this is, there's the front of it. It's down in the basement. Tay Collectibles since 1988. So yeah, the place with the Volkswagen, all the albums. I wasn't going to shoot any video, but when I started walking around, I was amazed at how much is in here. It's a huge place. Like, even if you don't come here on flea market day, it's no big deal because the entire flea market is encapsulated here in this place. They have everything that you might find in the flea market. More, probably. All the furniture, collectibles, all this tea stuff. Old cigarettes. That's would have a big attraction for older people. I thought I was, at the end of the store, but then I started seeing, coins here, old watches, telephones, old alarm clocks, CDs, and then way down here, all of the old irons. I always wondered how these could possibly work, because from what I've seen in television and movies, you put the hot coals inside, but it seems like the smoke and the ash would fall out, and then your clothing would just get really, really dirty. So I don't know how you can use those. Some typewriter and some old stuff, a lot of furniture. Yeah, a real treasure trove, this place. Yeah, if you needed a typewriter for whatever reason. I used to own something like even bigger than this one. I had a massive Underwood, weighed like 50 pounds. I think it was so big and heavy. And then for Christmas one year, my parents gave me a typewriter. Maybe it was a birthday present, I can't remember, but a smaller one like this. It came in a blue case with a handle on it, like a little suitcase. And then much later in my life, when I was at university, I got an IBM Selectric classic machine. And yeah, I went through all of my entire university years before the internet age, where you had to go to the library and take out books and put footnotes in your 30-page essays that you've typed out by hand. Completely different world. Yeah, this is interesting. A lot of the old soft drink. Coca-Cola vintage collectibles were very popular in Canada. Even my mother had all kinds of like Coca-Cola serving trays. I think Coke gave them out for free at grocery stores. So my mother ended up with a bunch of Coca-Cola stuff in our house. the old, the smaller bottles that we used to have. My gosh, it just goes on and on. No idea what these are. Sinalco. I don't know what that brand is. And getting into some vintage toys as well. Toys and games. Man, this place is so big, I'm getting lost. It's like a maze. I don't even know where I am anymore. Yeah, special room for toys and games. The dog listening to the phonograph. It's kind of cool to come in here where like before going to A&W sort of gets you into the vintage mood, the old days. Yeah, some paintings, drawings. Yeah, very cool place. Abacus. And one lone piece of electronics, a boombox. Other than that, I think everything in here is analog. Nothing you plug in. This is all oh no, there's a couple of, maybe the fan I was going to say, but the fan is probably for customers, not for sale. All right, so that's this place. They call it old furniture, blackwood furniture. I don't know what that is. Nonya ware, silverware, etc. Great place to eat. I like this food court. If I was staying in a hotel in this neighborhood, I'd probably have lunch here every day. My kind of a simple cuisine. So I was speaking with the staff at that antique collectibles store, and he was saying that, yeah, in the past, the flea market was open 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but not anymore. So the Friday opening has been canceled. But you still find, I think on Google Maps, it even says Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but that information is outdated apparently. I talked myself into it, so I did buy the book by Thoreau. That ought to be quite interesting. I think a lot about travel writing now, and of course, well, travel videos, travel vloggers, so getting kind of a vintage perspective. And I got all my all the mold and mildew. You know, this is an old garage sale book that has been stored in wet places. It's all not in great condition, to be honest. But anyway, in terms of payment, they do have a touch and go, so you could pay with an e-wallet if you wanted to. And then I found this, the cash payment here. So this book was 10 ringgit, and I put 10 ringgit cash in there just for the novelty of doing that. Because yeah, as I said, it'd be expensive to have a store in a mall, and one way they can make it work is by not paying staff. So this is basically a self-service used bookstore, and there it is. I already noticed one chapter in the book about says travel writing. What's the point of it? So it'll be interesting to see what Paul... He's actually quite a novelist. I think he probably had dreams and ambitions of being a novelist more than a travel writer. And he has written a lot of books, and a lot of good books, and has won awards. And yet I don't think his novels ever really captured the public's imagination or really took off in maybe the way he had hoped. Like The Mosquito Coast, he wrote that. And that was turned into a very successful movie with Harrison Ford, I believe. I love that movie. So yeah, he was very successful as a writer and academic, and yet for some reason it was his travel books that really hooked my generation. Yeah, but not really his novels, which is odd. Yeah, I'm back. I shot my Planet Doug video here. I had lunch at A&W. I had the classic combo, root beer, cheeseburger, fries. That was all I had. You can see that experience in my A&W video on Planet Doug. Yeah, it was fine. If I personally had to rate fast food, A&W, the type of food they serve would be very low on the list. The places that I frequent, not very often, but I might end up at a Burger King. And Burger King for me is at the top of my personal list in terms of the quality of their burgers, the quality of their fries, served hot and fresh. I remember not long ago going to a Burger King at a shopping mall near here, and it was like, whoa, this is a really nice burger and nice fries, big, thick fries. It was much higher quality, say, than McDonald's. And then I would put McDonald's under Burger King. I like the Coke that they serve. Too much ice, but I do like the Coke. The fries, I like the McDonald's fries better than these fries that they have. To be honest, they were actually, once again, I'm missing the stairs. I can never figure out this LRT station. The entrance is over here, I think. But yeah, the fries here were actually, I noted that the service was fast, much faster than I expected, which is a good thing. But I think the service was so fast because all the food had been prepared long ago and was just sitting there waiting. So all they had to do was scoop it up and put it on a tray, which means, of course, it was already cold. And the burger was the same. It was like, it actually seemed colder than room temperature. But anyway, to me, the fries were not my favorite. The burger was not even as good as a McDonald's burger, nowhere near a Burger King burger. Perhaps, I guess it's a personal taste. People like different types of fast food. You might prefer the fries and the burger here. It's up to you. But yeah. So, but a couple of things I really liked about this location. Very expansive seating area. It was busy Friday night, kind of Friday lunch rush. And yes, it's a very complicated LRT station to get into. I'm looking around. Where are the next stairs? Here they are. Yeah, because it's an older outlet. And I think they may even have expanded on the interior, but there was lots of seating. That was nice. So you don't actually have to worry about seating, and you feel there's lots of elbow room. I really like that. And I like the modern ordering system where you can order yourself using the electronic board. Worked really well, easy to figure out. Touch and go payment if you want to do that, or pay at the counter. Yeah, I really like that. Fast service, friendly service. Everybody working there. I asked them, do they mind if I shoot video inside? And they were happy to say okay to let me do it. And I asked the young man behind the counter how old that outlet was. And he said it was 61 years old. And that tracks because they had a big signboard inside giving the history of A&W, the whole international company. And they said that they expanded to Malaysia in 1963. So that would be like 62 years ago. So the fact that this outlet probably opened in late 1963 or early 1964, basically 61 years ago. But yeah, he was very happy to chat with me, and I asked them if I could shoot a little bit of video of them pouring out the draft root beer. He says, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I filmed a little bit of that. So yeah, they just seem to be very friendly people. And I saw that they were hiring. They had a sign on the outside saying, yeah, they're hiring. And they gave the salary for store managers, counter clerks, all the different positions that they're hiring for. And yeah, I need a job. So I took a picture of the sign just to see how much money I could be making if I stopped making YouTube videos and I got a job at A&W, you know. Could be my future. So obviously I'm on the LRT station. You can hear a train arriving. Could be my train. I'm not really sure. Yes, it is. Well, obviously it's mine if it's coming from that direction. It's obviously my train. So let's see if I get a seat this time. Back at Masjid Jamek station, my neighborhood. Just rode the LRT from Taman Jaya to here. Straight shot, no transfers, very easy. Train was really busy, full of people. Most of the seats were taken. So I was talking earlier about what year, what age will I finally be the guy who gets to sit down all the time? I was thinking I have to have someone else tell me. I'll just be standing all the time, and then one day I'll be on the train, standing, barely able to hold myself up, look like I'm gonna fall over, and then someone will come up to me, tap me on the shoulder, and say, sir, excuse me, sir, please have a seat. So yeah, I'll need other people to tell me when it's time to finally sit down. Yeah, normally I have a usual route out of Masjid Jamek that takes me to my old hotel. But now that I'm in a new location, I get to follow a different route. So there's this road here that I'm walking down. It's kind of a shortcut. Up ahead should be the 7-Eleven. Turn right, and my hotel, my new hotel, should be right there. Yeah, normally I'm over there somewhere. Yeah, I usually get out on the other side and then go up that direction. And this time I'm on the other side of the river. I haven't gone far. All I've done is basically cross the river, but I'm in the same basic neighborhood. Yeah, this is a small market area. Kind of a tourist area in a way. Like they're selling all tourist themed t-shirts, souvenirs. That's the word I'm looking for. A lot of souvenirs of your visit to KL all through there. Hey. Yeah, almost whenever anybody sees the camera, they can't figure out which way I'm filming. Since I'm holding the camera, everybody walking towards me thinks I'm filming them. They never figure out I'm filming in this direction. Yeah, it always strikes me, it doesn't matter what city, in what country in the world, it always hits me that you can find yourself in a completely different world just by moving over by a block or two. So I'm basically in my own neighborhood still, but just by moving over a couple of blocks, you discover so many brand new things. I've often noted that, like, if you find yourself working somewhere, like when I was working in Canada in various places, you have a path you follow where you commute to work, and you always follow the same route. One day, you just pick a different street, like just go to the left instead of the right, and it's like you're in an entirely different city. You find all these things you had no idea were there. It's always a good idea to shake things up like that if you can. Yeah, so there's the sign for swinging pillows, and here's the corner 7-Eleven. So I'm gonna grab some milk, maybe, and then head back to my room. Take all the video that I shot at the A&W, copy it over to my laptop, get a backup copy, make sure everything's saved. Yeah. Good morning. Continuing with behind the scenes stories. This is kind of a jumbled behind the scenes, and I'm recording a lot of it as I'm out walking around the city. It's not really the best way to record behind the scenes stories, I find, because I get distracted by everything around me. I prefer to sit on my bed in my hotel room and just tell stories there. But I've been pretty busy lately, so. And right now it's 6:30 in the morning, and I'm heading out to meet my friend Daryl from the Wander Eats YouTube channel. I often meet up with him early in the morning for breakfast. So yeah, he's an early riser with his family-based lifestyle. So you want to have breakfast with Daryl. You're meeting at 7:30 in the morning, which I don't mind at all. I'm awake early in the morning anyway. This is Planet Doug time, early in the morning. Nighttime, I'm dead. I run out of energy. But morning, that's my time. So I'm on my way to meet up with Daryl. And I thought I could tell the story from yesterday, because I had a bit of a small adventure yesterday where I went to a park here in Kuala Lumpur, a hiking park. And I've been doing quite a bit of that lately, where the last time I was in KL, I went to Bukit Dinding, place I just happened to see on Google Maps, and I had a really good experience there hiking on the trails at Bukit Dinding. I went there 2 times actually, and then I went to a place called Bukit Gasing. Bukit means hill in Malay, so it's like Gasing Hill, Dinding Hill. And then I had a really good time at Bukit Gasing. And then there was another place here in town that I learned about just recently called Taman Tugu, which means Monument Park. And it's right here inside the city, like downtown. In fact, from where I am now, if I walked in that direction, it's like 1.5 kilometers away. It's just there over the river and over the highway system, like across. It's pretty noisy here with the buses. You've got that whole area there with the botanical gardens, the bird park, the butterfly park, the National Mosque, the Royal Malaysian Police Museum, whole bunch of things over there. Right next to it, kind of attached to that to the north, there's the National Monument, and right beside the National Monument is a park, Taman Tugu, and it has a really interesting history that I'll talk about in a minute. The park itself is 66 kilometers, 66 acres in size, and then has a bunch of trails. And I didn't know, other than what I saw on the website, I didn't know anything about it. I'd never even heard of it before. So when I went there yesterday, thought that was an ambulance, but it's the police. I feel like I'm shouting. I have to shout to be heard so I can hear myself. Yeah, I didn't know much about this park, so it was a bit of a reconnaissance mission going there for the first time. And I shot a video, so there will be a Planet Doug video coming out about that whole trip. And in the video, actually, I repeat a lot of this information anyway. So if you watch both, you're hearing about the park 2 times. But yeah, I got to, as I said, I keep getting distracted because I have to navigate the MRT system here. Yeah, it always amazes me when I go outside of my usual hours. So this is 6:30 in the morning, but look at the traffic, all the commuter traffic. It's crazy. so busy. You normally expect the roads to be empty. I ended up getting to our meetup point early, so of course I have to get an Otter barista cafe latte. I still had trouble figuring out the payment system, but I eventually got it. And there's my latte being prepared, and it should be moving along the conveyor belt over here at some point. I don't see a lot of activity. I think I see something pouring out. The glass isn't very clear anymore, so it's hard to tell what's going on. Oh, there goes some hot milk. I remember I had this the last time I was here, and I wasn't that pleased because the coffee wasn't nearly hot enough. But, oh, there it goes, zooming over on the conveyor belt. Oh, this is where they put the lid on, and they push it down, I think. Now, oh, there, they push it down. I find that the best part. And the click means the door can be opened. So, here we are. And I'm meeting Daryl at exit B this time. So we have to find exit B now. The big moment, hot or not hot? Not bad, not bad. I need a few degrees more. I like it boiling out of the kettle, but out of a vending machine, I can actually feel it heating up my fingers. Like it's that hot. I can feel the heat through the cup. So that's a very good sign. Ah, very nice, very nice. Yeah, arriving early is a funny business. It's like, if you time it perfectly, like you leave your hotel and you know you have the amount of time to get here on time, that's when the train will be late. The second train will be late. You'll be delayed like 3 or 4 times, and then you run the risk of arriving 10 minutes late. And then this morning, because my fingers are actually too hot. Yeah, I really wanted to relax. I didn't mind arriving early, grabbing a cup of coffee. So I left my hotel early because I was just ready early. And because I left early, everything went perfectly. Every train connection was perfect. Like as soon as I arrived at the station, the train arrived. And then when I made the transfer, that train was like waiting on the platform. So every connection was like bing, 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 perfect. So because I had plenty of time, then everything went perfectly, which means I arrive even earlier. But if you leave just enough time, that's when everything goes wrong, and then you're rushing. So yeah, that's just the way life is. So, Taman Tugu. So, it's a hilly area, so if you go all the way back to pre-independence Malaysia, the history of this area, of course, goes back to pre-independence Malaysia, and this lush, beautiful, hilly area was where a lot of British government officials lived. They had houses in this area. And then post-independence, these houses were taken over by Malaysian government officials. So it was sort of a residential area, but for special housing for government members. And then as we got into the modern era, people kind of moved out of those houses. They didn't really live up there anymore. And there was interest from commercial developers who, of course, wanted to build condos and develop this area. So that was underway. But then, let me grab a seat here. There we go. But then there was an initiative to turn it into a park. And I don't know who spearheaded the initiative or exactly how it came about, but it was funded and sponsored by an organization called Khazanah. And Khazanah is like it's like a government corporation. They call it a sovereign wealth fund, meaning that they control the money of the government and invest it and do things with it. And they decided to turn this beautiful hilly area into a park, a public park, Taman Tugu, and they call that a CSR. I think that stands for Community Social Responsibility, which is a special category in their budget where they sponsor things to benefit the community. So you've got a corporation and they take some of their money and they do something nice for the community, and they call that a CSR, Community Social Responsibility. So Taman Tugu was founded as a CSR. Whew. Yeah, I've got some bells from the temple next door. And this is where Daryl is going to pick me up. But I haven't told him I'm already here because I have things to talk about. And so what they did, they teamed up with the FRIM, which is the Forest Research Institute of Malaysia, and they identified 1,000 trees, like big trees that are already there, and they identified 1,000 trees, identified them, and decided to preserve them, kept a close record of them, and then they added 5,000 more trees. And these trees were specially selected from the available species in Malaysia to make up a natural rainforest, but they also focused on endangered species. So they had 1,000 original trees, some of them like 80 to 100 years old, big trees, and then they planted 5,000 more trees, and they developed what they call a discoverable trail system, which I think means they didn't go in there with like bulldozers and say, we must put a trail here and let's cut down all the trees and basically do whatever we want to put in the trail. No, they sort of looked for existing trails, maybe that animals already created or humans had already created, and these are like discoverable trails. So they didn't tear anything down, they didn't cut down trees, they just put in a natural set of trails that preserved everything that was already there. And one thing I find interesting about Taman Tugu is in terms of preservation, they included human habitation. So they didn't preserve only the natural environment, they also preserved like the old foundations of buildings. So I never saw any of this when I was there. Oh, my phone just beeped, might be Daryl. So they kept the like old walls, like if there was a house that had fallen down and didn't really exist anymore, but there was a wall and a doorway, they kept that and then they incorporated it into the trail, which I find quite interesting. And there were some buildings that were in better condition. For example, there was a Islamic school, madrasa, I think it's called, and they kept that. So it's still there. And then Hindu temples, like Hindu shrines, and a lot of these older buildings that they renovated and brought them up to date, they're now performance spaces. They're like venues that community groups can rent and hold activities there, hold events there, things like that. So there's a lot going on in this place, and as they were developing the park, it actually opened in 2018, so it's a relatively new place. So yeah, what else? They removed like 300 truckloads of garbage because it had become a dumping ground, and they removed 300 truckloads of garbage. It's a free park, free to visit. So that's the background. My story, I decided I wanted to go there, and then a friend of mine here in Kuala Lumpur, we were arranging something to do together to meet up, and she actually suggested Bukit Dinding. But yeah, I've done like all the trails at Bukit Dinding, and they're pretty tough trails. And I already had plans to go to this other hiking area. So I suggested to her, well, yeah, I mean, if you want to go on a hike, I'm actually going to go to this one. Let's go there together. And so we made the arrangements. And she was going to come, she was driving, so she was going to drive to my hotel, pick me up there, and then we would drive from there to the park. And in a way that it doesn't make a lot of sense to drive to the park because, as I said earlier, it's like 1.5 kilometers from my hotel. It's like right across the river. So my original idea, and I think it's actually easier sometimes in KL to walk than drive. It's like walking isn't easy, but if there is a good walking route, it might be, say, 1 kilometer to get somewhere. But if you try to drive that same distance, you end up in all of these highway systems and loops and one-way streets and cloverleaf interchanges. And by the time you cover 1 kilometer as the crow flies, you've done like 5 to 10 kilometers in your car. It's kind of crazy. But anyway, she was going to come pick me up at my hotel, and I just trusted her that she would navigate. She knows the city. She knows where to go. And we're going to meet at 8 o'clock at my hotel. I step outside my hotel at like 5 minutes to 8, and it turns out that the road in front of my hotel was just jammed with people running, cycling, inline skating, running, jogging, roller skates for all I know, and there were even horse-drawn carriages. And it turns out that, of course, it was a Sunday, so these were all people taking part in the car-free Sunday event, but it had included all kinds of fun runs. So there's like a 5K fun run, a 7K, I think, and a 10K. So as soon as I stepped outside, I could tell there's no way my friend is going to be able to make it here because the whole road is closed. So she's not going to be able to get in there in her car. All the roads are going to be blocked. So now, of course, we're diving into the WhatsApp to communicate. And things got really complicated really fast. I'm sending her a message. Oh, I don't think you can make it. All the roads are going to be closed. You know, sorry about that. I didn't know. And then she was writing the same message to me at the same time saying, oh, I can't make it in because all the roads are closed. And now we're sending messages back and forth. I said, you know, maybe you can just pull over the side of the road wherever you are, send me a location pin, and I'll just walk. Because I thought she would be like 2 blocks away or something like that. And I could just walk to wherever she is. But then she was actually at the KLCC area, and then she said, "Oh, if this is easy for you, just hop into the LRT, come to KLCC, and then I'll be waiting outside. She said, look for Avenue K." I was just looking to my right because I saw a car that looked like Daryl's, but no, it's a Honda, I think. I always forget what people's cars look like until they show up right in front of me, and I can't think like, oh, what does this car look like? But as soon as I see it, I go, oh, there he is. That's his car. So anyway, I hop into the LRT system, which is kind of ironic because the park, as I said, is 1.5 kilometers in this direction if I walk there. But now to meet up with my ride, I'm going like 2.5 kilometers in the opposite direction to get in a car and then get in the car and then drive all the way back to the park. But that's just the way things turned out. Driving is not always that easy. And it turned out meeting up with her was not as difficult as I expected. Like she said, oh, just go to Avenue K, exit to the left. And I have no idea what Avenue K is, like no clue at all. I'm like, I guess when I get there, I'll figure this out. And then when I got there, it turns out that Avenue K was a big shopping mall. That was the name of the shopping mall there. And there was a big sign. I went, ah, okay, that worked out well. But of course, I had to turn off my GoPro right away, because if you're anywhere near KLCC, you're at the Petronas Towers, and the shopping mall, the underground part goes like right underneath or very near to the Petronas Towers. So of course they're monitoring traffic much more carefully there. And if you go through that area with the GoPro running, I've been told to turn off my camera many times. So I don't turn on my GoPro when I'm near KLCC, like underground. So I turned off my GoPro, followed the exit, and yeah, it worked out perfectly. As soon as I came out though, I did send my friend a message like, okay, I found Avenue K. I'm standing on the street. The Decathlon is right in front of me. I don't really know where I am. Can you send me a pin to your car? And then it turned out she was like 50 meters away. I saw a car with its hazards flashing. And I went, ah, that must be her. And it turned out that was her. And then I hopped in her car. Coffee is done. Very nice job, Otter Barista. They heated up. Maybe they listened to one of my previous videos and they cranked up the temperature on the milk a little bit, but that was much hotter all the way to the very end. It was hot enough. Very enjoyable. It was 8 ringgit, by the way. So the bell ringing, by the way, was coming from this Hindu temple over here. I don't know how old it is or what kind of a history it has, but I noticed this interesting sign here where they have a 6-month certificate course in Hinduism, and they have all the course contents there, sections on the Hindu concept of God, Hindu society, Hindu scriptures, all the way down to number 21, duties of a Hindu. And first free preview, March 26th. And it looks like it's a free course, but they say contribution by those who can afford 40 ringgit per month for the course. Class every Wednesday, 7:31 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. So it's a 2-hour class every Wednesday night. Class starts April 2nd, 2025. Just got a message from Daryl, bit of a traffic jam, so he's running a bit late. So I'll try to tell a little bit more of the Taman Tugu story. So yeah, I got in the car with my hiking partner for the day, and then we had to drive to the park, which really wasn't that easy because of the road system, as I mentioned, one-ways, clover leaves, highway systems. And I'm accustomed to everybody being really dialed in with GPS, because the only time I ever get in a car is with Daryl, and he's all about technology, so he's got GPS dialed into his car system. So we just follow turn-by-turn directions. I just get in the car, I don't have to think about it, he knows where he's going. And then with KY, it's the same thing. KY is also a Grab driver, so he knows the roads of KL like the back of his hand, and he also runs GPS. But my hiking partner didn't have GPS running. So when I got into her car, she turned to me and says, oh, would you mind firing up your phone and getting Google Maps? Like, she thinks she knew where to go, but it would be nice to have it confirmed if I'm tracking it on Google Maps. So actually I did that, and I gave myself a pat on the back. I was very proud of myself that I figured out how to do it on the spot. So I wasn't shooting any video in the car because I was navigating. Turns out she didn't need the navigation. She knew where we were supposed to go. So yeah, we got there. And it was I spoke to a couple of people there about like what's going on, like why are there so many people here? And I didn't really understand their answers, but it seemed to be a combination of the fun run, like the car-free Sunday event, combined with 3 other events, meant there was a spillover from car-free Sunday into Taman Tugu, and there was a wellness event in Taman Tugu itself. I mentioned they have these buildings that are like venues, activity places, and some kind of organization set up a wellness day. There were signs there talking about it. So a lot of people came for that as well, and people were there for hiking. So it was basically a perfect storm of all these people coming to Taman Tugu. And the entrance road was just absolutely jammed. Like everybody, the main parking lot was full. We saw that later on. The security guards were turning cars away. Like, no, the lot is full. And then everybody was parking alongside the curving, winding road. And then there were little parking lots scattered here and there, like near the National Monument. And everybody was just scrambling to find any place where they could park. And then my hiking partner eventually found a spot and we parked the car. But yeah, I was amazed how busy it was. Well, amazed and not amazed, because I've been to a couple of these hiking parks early in the morning, and at that time in the morning, there's a rush of people. Like Malaysians, a certain class of Malaysians are big into hiking, getting their morning exercise. You might not be aware of it. It's like if you wake up and you're showering at 9 o'clock in the morning, you've missed everything already. All the Malaysians, they were up at 5 a.m. They went to the mountains. They went hiking for an hour and a half. They went home and showered, and they're having breakfast before you even got out of bed. So yeah, I'm aware of that. So yeah, you get an early morning rush of people who do this routinely for exercise. They go hiking, running, jogging through all the mountain trails. So you're always going to see quite a few people, I guess, especially on a Sunday. And we didn't see everything in the park, but outside the park there was the National Monument, which is quite an interesting, it's got a big bronze statue and some historical plaques. And so we went to see the National Monument there. And then from there, we followed the road, the winding road, with so many other people, cars passing by us closely. And then while we were walking, I was doing this. I was talking on the GoPro about the history of Taman Tugu, everything that I could remember, talking about the various trees, the 1,000 original trees, the 5,000 planted trees, things like that. And to my surprise, we ended up at the main entrance, which is marked as E1 on all the maps. That's where I wanted to go. But in my mind, I thought we had parked far away from E1, but it turns out we were quite close to it. And then when we walked along the road, we just found ourselves at the main entrance, E1. So yeah, that worked out really well. They have some nice signage there giving information about the park. And there's a nice map. They have a really nice map of the park. And then from there, my hiking and reconnaissance mission started, because I didn't really understand how the park was laid out. I was thinking in terms of Bukit Dinding, where each trail was color-coded, and each trail was like a completed loop, and each trail had a name. So you could say, oh, I'm going to do the Kazumi Trail. I'm going to do the Mini Tahan Trail, and it is a distinct, separate trail. And when I looked at the map of Taman Tugu, it looked to be the same, because there were all these trails, and each one had a different color. So I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. So what is the name of each trail? But then the system fell apart for me. I didn't see a specific name for the trails themselves. The color coding lined up with corporate sponsorship. So like the Simba Bank, for example, CIMB, a local bank, they sponsored like 4 of the different trails, and the color coding came down to a list, a legend showing what company sponsored each of these color-coded trails. But even though it was color-coded, that wasn't really a separate trail. It was just a section of the main trail. And then I got really confused because there were also markings on the trail called CP, like CP1, CP2. And I thought those were the names of the trail. So I thought, oh, so I'm looking at the map going, okay, so we start on trail number 1, CP1, and that leads to trail number 2, CP2, that sort of thing. So that was my assumption. But that didn't make any sense as we started hiking. And then I never did figure it out at the time, but I slowly figured out something that in fact, technically there's really one long trail that winds through the whole area, and then you just follow these CP numbers. So you're at CP1, that blends into CP2, then CP3, then CP4, all the way up to CP30. So as long as you're walking along and the numbers are going up on the signs, you're on the main trail, and you'll eventually come around to the beginning again. And then they have secondary trails that don't have a CP number. And I had, the whole day, I was trying to figure out, what does CP stand for? I could not figure it out. My hiking partner didn't know. But then later in the afternoon, after the hike was over, I was on YouTube, and I came across a couple of YouTube videos from other people who shot videos about that park. And one of them was from a Malaysian hiking group, and they cleared up the mystery that CP stands for checkpoint. So these are all just sort of like mile markers on a highway. These were markers on the trail. Checkpoint 1, then checkpoint 2, checkpoint 3. And that's what CP stands for. And it's like, now I get it. So while we were hiking, a good chunk of my brain was busy trying to figure out all this stuff. And then much later in the day, it all finally came together. And right out of the gate, I was really impressed with this place. You go in from a very busy road, but even the road itself is quite beautiful, lined with trees and bush, very green, very lush. And then you go through a cement wall with an opening. There's a gate there. They close the gate at 6:30 at night. I think it's open from 7 in the morning until 6:30, and they lock the gate. But as soon as you step through the cement gate and step onto the first path, it's like the entire city vanishes. 1 minute you're in the middle of one of the world's major cities. The next second you feel like you're in the middle of a rainforest. Everything is gone. It just like someone threw a light switch from concrete to rainforest. And the trails are really beautiful, really lush. And as I kept saying in the video, it seemed to me and to my hiking partner, I think she was the one who figured this out first, that there seemed to be much greater biodiversity at Taman Tugu than at Bukit Dinding. And that kind of makes sense to me. Like by biodiversity, I mean just the variety of plants and the variety of trees. As you're looking around, you just seem to see more different types of leaves and trees and plants, and not many flowers, as it turns out, but everything else. And that kind of made sense to me when I thought about it later on, because Bukit Dinding, the whole hill had been stripped of the original forest for a rubber plantation. The whole hill was covered in rubber trees. And then when Bukit Dinding was turned into a park, they started letting the original forest grow back. But Taman Tugu was never a rubber plantation, as far as I can figure out. It was a kind of a residential area for government housing, but the trees were never like clear cut or anything. So I think when they turned it into an official park and started preserving the trees, planting new trees, they already had a head start. It was already a much more fully developed rainforest. So eventually Bukit Dinding will go back to 100% rainforest, like all of the original plant life will return. But it isn't there quite yet. But it looks like Taman Tugu, it's not a full rainforest either, but it is much closer, I think. Just more variety, plants and trees, things like that. So that's something I noticed. And there's a warning sign about snakes, but I never saw a snake anywhere. Did see a lizard, and then there is a warning sign about macaques, monkeys. And for the longest time, we didn't see any macaques, so I was kind of disappointed in that. But then we took the orange trail, like a trail that's marked with the orange color. It's kind of a little bit of a self-contained, very beautiful detour. And when we were on that trail, out of nowhere, we found ourselves surrounded by macaques. A big male macaque who seemed to be the leader of the troop, and then a couple of females, like mother. They had babies holding on to them as they were jumping from tree to tree, a bunch of juveniles and babies. So suddenly we had macaques all around us, and that was really nice. The one thing we missed, I think, there's like one trail in particular that seems to go through the abandoned houses that I mentioned, like doorways and walls and things like that. I saw that in somebody else's video, but the trails that we followed, a couple of times we had to make a choice, this trail or this one. And I guess every time we made a choice, they were all beautiful trails, but I guess one of the trails we didn't choose was the one that had all of the remains, the old foundations of these houses that belonged to the British and Malaysian government officials. So I never did see any of that, but we pretty much saw everything else. And we went very, very slowly because she was with me, my hiking partner, and I have to read everything. I have to take a picture of everything. I have to take video of everything. I go very slowly. I'm looking for mushrooms. I'm looking for macaques. I'm looking for snakes, looking for flowers. Constantly, you know, the motto of Planet Doug, always look up. So I'm always stopping and then looking up and seeing new things, looking up at the trees. So we went very, very slowly. We were in there for 3 to 4 hours, maybe. I think other people that I saw do the hikes, they say it takes like 1 hour to do the full hike, would be 1 hour. And we were in there for, I would say, 3 hours, from 9 until 12, I would say. And then when we exited, to my surprise, there was a big sort of a picnic area. There's a big roof structures for shelter from the sun and from the rain. And there were a couple of dozen big picnic tables laid out there. People were selling food, selling iced coffee, coconuts. You chop open the coconut, drink the coconut water. There was prayer rooms on one side, bathrooms on the other. And I went into the bathroom, and to my surprise, I found showers. They had 2 shower stalls in there. So I went in and took a shower, stripped all the way down and turned on the water, got my head wet because I was really overheating by that point. And yeah, beautiful shower, really enjoyed that. I wish I'd brought dry clothes because my shirt, my pants, everything I was wearing, complete, like soaked all the way through with sweat from the hiking. I mean, it was a pretty gentle hike. Oh, here comes Daryl. So, but yeah, when I was there, I had a passion fruit lemon iced tea. That was great. My hiking partner got a coconut and sat there for 30, 40 minutes chatting, talking about the hike. And then it was time to leave. And I went home. I may have a few other things to talk about, but that seems to be kind of the good end of the story. So I'll end it there. Daryl just arrived, and it's breakfast time. So yeah, on board with Daryl. There he is, and he's vlogging today as well over our breakfast, and he's got me mic'd up. So now I've got 2 microphones hidden here, one Rode for my GoPro and a DJI Bluetooth setup for his DJI Action 5 Pro. So you had an idea for a breakfast spot?
Yes, I do. It's somewhere quite special. It's a little bit further away, but I think it's worth the journey. So hopefully you liked it. So yeah, hence I'm vlogging as well, because that place is quite special. So,
okay. Yeah, as soon as I got in the car, I clocked the Wander Eats branded shirt. There you go. Yeah, I haven't seen too much of Daryl on this visit. I saw we had breakfast when I first got back. But then, I had that brutal cold. I'm still thinking about it, why I was so ill from that. And that knocked me out for a while. And then I kept intending to leave. I'm supposed to be going back to Sumatra. And then, this is behind the scenes, by the way.
Oh, okay.
This is casual,
Lovely.
casual shooting. I've just been telling stories all morning already. And then I keep, extending by another few days, then another week. So I really wasn't making plans, because I kept thinking, well, in the next 2 days I'm leaving. I ended up staying a full month.
Wow.
But I've only seen Daryl one other time that I've been here. This is only the second time.
Yep.
Cloudy day, gray day. So I guess rainy season is coming back. I'm hearing people talk about rainy season again.
I think it's more like the end of it, rather.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
You should have clear blue skies in Sumatra too. So.
Yeah, well, I hope so. There's a American vlogger that I've been talking about a lot lately, the American Hobo.
Yeah.
And he just yesterday crossed the border.
Okay.
He rode his bike into Malaysia yesterday. Had no troubles at the border, no issue. And he's in Perlis, Kangar, the city, Kangar, Perlis.
The capital of Perlis.
But someone left a comment on his video. There's been some discussion about, someone left a comment saying, oh, you're not going to be able to handle the heat of Malaysia. And then I chimed in and says, oh, you kidding me? He's already gone through Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. Real heat in Cambodia and heavy, heavy rains. And the American Hobo, he just keeps going.
Wow.
Planet Doug, I mean, first hint of rain, I'm running inside. I'm not cycling in the rain. I'm not that tough. But he's out there cycling in the heavy rain. But anyway, as part of that conversation, he said, I'll be fine with the heat. And then someone says, oh, but the rainy season is really going to be a problem. So that's why I thought, oh, there's another rainy season starting?
Oh, okay.
But I don't know.
I believe it's the tail end of it, so...
Oh, okay.
There will still be rain, so for sure.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask my AI buddies about the rainy seasons here. I watched his video this morning. I woke up, had my cup of coffee while I was getting ready to come meet you, and I queued up. He posts a video every day.
Oh, wow.
Every single day. So the day he records it.
I see.
So he records during the day, then he stays up all night editing and uploading. It's crazy that he can do that. So he did the ride from Thailand into Malaysia yesterday, and I already watched the video today.
Yeah.
Like, it's that quick. So he puts us all to shame.
Yeah, indeed.
I don't know where we are. I haven't been paying attention as usual. I let Daryl do his thing, but we have gone out into the countryside. So what part of Malaysia are we in now?
Yeah, in Kepong.
Kampong?
Kepong.
Kepong.
Yeah.
So Kepong Kampong. And how do you know about this place where we're going for breakfast?
It was featured on social media, so a lot of people do feature it, so I thought, why not give it a try?
Okay. So yeah, this is actually quite fascinating. Daryl has sprung another very pleasant surprise on me. It turns out this restaurant is inside a botanical garden, a botanical park. And that fits in very nicely with this behind the scenes video because I was just telling the story of the hiking I did yesterday at Taman Tugu.
Ah, okay.
That's where I went. Remote Darren, he shot a video there like 6 or 7 years ago. I didn't know that. I didn't watch it until afterwards.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, we entered the park and they had an entrance fee. What was it for Malaysian and a foreigner?
ringgit. Sorry, I believe it's 3 ringgit and 7 ringgit. So
Okay, like that.
double as well. So
But yeah, and the look, yeah, right. I was talking about Malaysians and exercising and being early in the morning. You can see that here. A lot of people. They're already done. I mean, their hike is over and they're on their way home already. And it looks like there's quite a hill up there, so you could do some serious climbing up there. Look at that. Very steep.
we're definitely not doing any of those today.
No, I'm not ready for that.
Neither am I.
But I just want to take a look at this sign up ahead, give
Yeah.
us an idea of what's here.
So we have to turn left here as well.
Nursery, a walk, palm collection, forest skywalk, ginger garden, bamboo garden, climber house, fruit tree, and then, well, I may even have seen this place on a map at one point or another, but without a car. Like you couldn't get here by LRT probably. So got a little bit of a wow reaction. What a place.
Yeah. Look at that. The people are still.
My gosh. Look at this hill range. I wonder, well, so yeah, gonna have to do some research now, figure out the hiking trails. There's, God, look at those. That looks like original rainforest from a distance. And there's a pond, like a lake over there, the trail going, the place looks huge. I didn't know anything about this place. I'll have to look it up now. Add it to my collection of hiking areas in KL, except not here to hike this morning. We're here to have breakfast. Look at that, what a surprise. We've been looking at this big structure there, like scaffolding. Oh, that must be the sign says something about a canopy walk, like a forest. That's probably what it is. I wonder how tough a climb, even in like with long pants like we're wearing after breakfast. Do you think we could go up there? Do you think? Would that be too much? So one of the places that was listed on the main side, the main sign was the bamboo garden, Taman Bulu. And here it is. So there's all these clusters of bamboo. Huh. Oh, and there's I didn't even know we were coming here. So of course I didn't do any kind of a deep dive into the website or maps. But there is a map here. Gives a sense of the scale of the park.
We are here.
Okay. Oh yeah, just crossing there. This would be the bamboo.
Yep.
Okay, bamboo garden, number 4. And then where is the...
So this is Razak Walk.
Number
13 is a palm collection.
Forest Skywalk is number
11.
11.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that should
Okay.
be. That looks like the right spot as well.
So I don't see trails going up
Yeah.
through the hills.
No.
All the trails are down here going around the lake, so more like a city park. But there might still be hiking trails going up, I don't know. Yeah, Daryl and I arrived at the entrance to this cafe, and yeah, very lush archway to welcome us in. And Bukit Hari experimental plots. 11 fields. Ah. Look at this. Bamboo towering above us. Trees. Daryl, taking me to an amazing place when I'm shooting a behind-the-scenes video.
Yeah,
Now
that's the whole idea.
Yeah, well, this should be an official Planet Doug video. But I'd have to come back here to do a full deep dive for Planet Doug later on.
Yeah, you should. Wow, this is good. So they just opened. So now it's about 15 minutes, 20. Just grabbing pathway to make.
It's the invasion of the vloggers with two cameras running at the same time.
Ah, there you go. Mimpi hutan.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the name. I need to see things written down, but I still don't get it because the script is kind of weird. I can't read it.
Take a photo as well.
And there's the cafe building. And they have these incredible tents. Daryl was saying that there's a lot of chatter about this place on local social media. And I can understand it. I mean, it's just so visual. Even, the food and coffee and the park, everything I'm sure is good. But then you also have the added attraction of this, just sort of the visual look of these tents. And look at the setting here. And it looks like at some point they might even have it like a shuttle transportation. I saw something down there, like they called it a bus stop. And they have a little 4-seater or 6-seater bus there. So maybe they transport people sometimes up and down. So what else did you read about this place online when you were doing your research? What did people say?
Nothing much actually. It's just a cool spot within the forest to get away from the city, I guess. Mm-hmm. Because it's really not that far from civilization, right? So it's quite accessible, and yeah, that's basically a lot of people do come in the especially the weekends. It's quite packed. So
is there any public transportation to get here? Any LRT, no, MRT option?
Unfortunately not.
Nothing like that.
You can get to Kepong, but then from Kepong you have to find your way here via Grab.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So we didn't go for a full nasi lemak breakfast here because apparently Daryl has plans for another spot that we're going to check out, and just ordered a cafe latte, hot, my usual, and a chicken sandwich. And here's the menu. And Daryl found out that they've been open since May 1st. And so this is where they prepare the coffee bar. And we took a seat out here underneath one of the tents, since that's the specialty seating here.
breakfast is served. There you go. I think I need to switch it to white. Yeah.
And there's my latte. They have a nice heart design on top. And you went for an Americano? But they added something to your Americano at the end, like some sort of flavoring?
No. I asked for a little bit of syrup. So,
Okay.
yeah, I was afraid that it's too potent. So.
I can't remember filming with two people. Like, I can't remember what was on his camera and what was on mine. I can't remember if I talked about the coffee when my GoPro was running. But anyway, this is a latte from here, and it's really good. Strong flavor, really hot. A pleasant surprise. It's a great cup of coffee, one of the best I've had in a long time. So, and I was telling Daryl I had the vending machine latte at the MRT station. So I've got, it's more of a, more liquidy, not as strong. So I have that to compare it to, and my mouth is very excited to have this kind of coffee. And I might as well bite into the chicken sandwich while the camera is running.
Cheers.
No, it's not chicken. It is chicken?
It is chicken.
Okay.
Chicken ham.
Chicken ham. That's nicely done. It's not standard white bread. It's got a bit of texture to it, something special about the bread.
Wheat, I believe.
Yep.
Wheat bread.
Nice cheese flavor. I don't think it's
There's cheese,
Yeah.
Mayo, a lot of mayo on there.
a lot of mayo. Yeah, nice little sandwich. No complaints at all.
For the price, it's, very good.
Yeah. Planet Doug approved all around. Coffee and a chicken sandwich snack. That was really nice. So we're just leaving from this amazing place. Yeah, highly recommended for the quality of the coffee that I had anyway. It was really good. A lot of mosquitoes, so we were sitting underneath that tent, and eventually the mosquitoes figured out how tasty my blood was, and they started arriving. So you got that going on. And I haven't done a deep dive into this place at all in terms of what's here to do, but we spotted this big scaffolding structure and thought that was probably the forest canopy walkway, and that's what it is, but it's run by FRIM, the Forest Research Institution of Malaysia. So it's actually a separate thing, and they have an entrance fee. So you have to pay an entrance fee to come into this botanical gardens. And then if you wanted to go to the canopy walkway, that's another charge. And it's not entirely cheap. For a Malaysian, for the full experience, it would be 20 ringgit an adult. And for a foreigner, it's 50. Yeah, I think 50 ringgit to go into the canopy walkway. And then they have the main canopy walkway, but then there's a tower. And to go up the tower is an additional 10 ringgit or something like that. Yeah, probably in this light you can't really see it that clearly, but that's the structure over there. So I thought if it was part of this and this was our whole day, we could walk up there. But
Let's go to the sign.
yeah, let's go to the sun. Good plan. Well, we're heading somewhere else to grab something
it's
to
not open
eat.
yet, so
No, it's not even open yet.
we have a little bit of time.
And because it costs so much money, there's no point going up there today.
I'm not recording the next spot, so all yours.
Yeah, well, I don't even know.
It's behind the scene anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Forgot about it.
So we're down at the KGB sign.
KBG.
I know. That looks good on your S25 screen there, though.
Oh, when it comes out on the real thing, it's
No,
God knows.
no, it's handling the exposure really well. I'm surprised. But there's the selfie sign. And yeah, lovely place here. There's people exercising, doing Tai Chi in the morning. Wow, what a place. So I guess the main trail here, it essentially goes around the lake. So that's the main trail. I thought there'd be a whole set of trails going up the hill, but apparently that's part of the Botanic Gardens anyway. No, so there aren't any trails going up there from this place, or, you know, maintained by this place. There might be a trail up there maintained by Frim. I'm not sure about that, but absolutely serene. Serene. This is very, very nice. And a stroll around the entire lake would be quite nice. It's Daryl doing his due diligence, getting all the good photos. Kepong Botanical Gardens update. Just saw a sign. Like Daryl and I were just talking about drones, as all YouTubers do over coffee, wondering, oh, it'd be so amazing to have a drone, get drone footage of this amazing place. But as we're walking out, we see a sign, no drones allowed here. So that's something to think about. And I just found out from Daryl that there's a camera charge. When we drove up to the entrance, the guy looked in the car window, and I happened to be holding my GoPro. So he's like, ah! So it's 5 ringgit camera fee. And he didn't spot Daryl's camera, so we only had to pay for one camera. But the ins and outs of Kepong Botanical Gardens. That's why these reconnaissance missions are so important. You get all this figured out, and then you can come back a second time and you know, you kind of know what's going on. Daryl and I are heading towards the parking lot. So this is the entrance area to what they call the Botanic Gardens. It's not actually botanical gardens. These are the Kepong Botanic Gardens. And yeah, there's a lot here. So this is the Razak Walk. That might be the walk that goes all the way around the lake. So that might be the main hiking trail here. Stays basically on level ground. And then to go up to the Forest Skywalk, you'd have to climb. Oh yeah, so there's the sign pointing the way to the Forest Skywalk. I'm just heading this way because I spotted some bathrooms here. Yeah, very beautiful place. The heat is starting to arrive though. And Daryl was saying, we have enough time if we wanted to. We could go for a long walk, but I think he and I are both starting to get very, very hot and muggy already. We're not dressed for hiking. We're dressed for air-conditioned sipping of coffee, stuff like that. The bathroom has a shower stall, just one of them in there. But yeah, it's sort of a new thing. I hadn't noticed showers in bathrooms in hiking areas before, so that's kind of cool. Get yourself hot and sweaty hiking around, and then pop in there, shower, put on dry clothes, and head home. Nice. Oh, I see another sign here. This is the no drone zone, but there's also no bikes, so you can't cycle around this park either. So there are the rules, and then don't feed the monkeys. Didn't see any of them, but I'm sure they're up there in the hills. It looks like an amazing habitat for the macaques. But we've been driving for a while.
Yeah, it's
so
still a while.
Yeah.
Probably like 6 kilometers.
Yeah, but going by Batu Caves from this highway is always interesting. Too bad the sun isn't coming in from another angle, so it's not lighting up the cliffs the way that I'd like. But yeah, we could keep going. We'll end up in Janda Bike. What's that place called?
Janda Bike.
Janda Bike?
Yeah. We would.
This is where when I went with KY to Janda Bike, this is the road that we followed.
And
yeah.
You can see the caves.
Yeah, there's Batu Caves. There's Lord Murugan and the colorful stairs.
Oh, there are a lot of people on the staircase too.
Yeah, a few. Huh.
Thought it would be 0. But no.
Yeah, I have a very fond feelings for Batu Caves. I really like that place. Which is why I'm so interested when other vloggers make a video about Batu Caves.
Batu Caves.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah. So it's just here further up. as you can see, the restaurant is just here. It's not a restaurant, sorry, it's like a cafe, kopitiam. But the food is, and the coffee is good.
And there's the the backside.
Yeah.
I had this plan, or a Planet Doug video, that I was going to come to Batu Caves and walk around the entire thing, just sticking to the base,
Okay.
just to see what's here,
Yeah,
because I had no idea what was here.
Yeah. Okay, let me go and find a car park.
Okay.
So it's a very nice Malay family that runs the place. So not much capacity for sitting though. So yeah, there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not open yet.
Yeah, it's not open. It's 10:30, so we have
Oh,
another
I see.
20 minutes.
Okay.
So but here has an issue of parking as well. So might as well we look for a proper car park because I can't be parking in front of people's houses too.
The boys have separated for a few minutes. Daryl is off trying to find a parking spot. And I was just saying to him that I had been thinking for a while of coming out to Batu Caves. I've been out here many, many times. I love Batu Caves as an experience. But I thought it'd be really interesting to walk around the entire limestone cliff structure, the massif, the mountain basically of Batu Caves, and just walk around the entire thing at ground level, like just circumvent this entire limestone structure. It's amazing. But so that just gave me the idea that while I'm here, I can just walk down this little street while Daryl looks for a parking spot. Yeah, just see how close I can get to the base of the cliffs. I just wanted to see what's back here. All these people that live back here. Very interesting houses. Some history here. And look at these cliffs basically going straight up. And these trees, like the roots growing right out of the rock. It's like the whole cliff covered in rainforest. That's amazing. I think there's no way there's any kind of a trail from here. I thought maybe on the off chance there might be a trail going up the sides of the cliffs, but it's just way too steep. So you got houses going right up to the base of the cliffs. And then I'm pretty sure there won't be anything beyond this point. No way to get higher than this. Look at that. Look at that. There's a house right here of some kind. And right there is the rock of Batu Caves. But yeah, I thought maybe there'd be a path going along the base, but there's nowhere to go along here. Interesting though. This is the land where the compact car is king. You've got to get your car up a narrow road like this and park it in a small space, so kind of the smaller the better. All these cars have to be tucked away into these little garages. You're not going to get a 4x4 pickup truck from North America in these tight spaces. Not too easily, anyway. I just walked over one laneway, basically hopped over one block to another lane that goes up to the base of Batu Caves. Though I don't really, can you call this whole thing, like Batu Caves, of course, is the cave, but I don't know if this karst formation, this limestone rock, this mountain essentially, has a name separate from Batu Caves, or whether you just call the whole thing Batu Caves. But here's the next laneway over, and I thought I'd just walk. It goes up to the base again. Just thought I'd go for a walk up here, see what's up here. It's fascinating to see all the different types of housing in Malaysia. These little homes that are tucked away all over the place. Oh, I'm almost at the very end here. See, looking up at Batu Caves. I was just curious if there's any kind of a path or public road that follows along the base. But I think this is just the backyard of this house. So yeah, there's nothing that follows it. But yeah, look at that. The jungle up there. Another interesting house. I was just talking about how there's no room for a 4x4 pickup truck. And then this house made a liar out of me. I mean, it's not like a giant Ford F-150 or anything, but hey, it's a 4x4 pickup truck. So they made a liar out of me that they do have pickup trucks here. A cat dozing on top. Some nice landscaping in the sense of, yeah, pots planted here. Nice and lush. I think if I had gone through with that project to walk all the way around Batu Caves, this is pretty much where I'd be walking, because there's no way to follow the base. You'd have to come out here to this main road basically to follow along. And as Daryl pointed out, there's a bunch of factories all through here, and then there's some basic lunch eateries, low-cost places to eat all along here. But I spotted this old phone booth, Aliyah. There's a blast from the past. And there's another street here, so I'm just going to follow one more of these laneways towards Batu Caves before I go meet Daryl at Bolton. Yeah, one thing you may not notice it right away here in Malaysia, but it's nice in a way that there are not that many dogs kept as pets or even wild dogs. Port Dickson had a lot of wild dogs, oddly enough, but here, for example, in this neighborhood, as a stranger walking through here, you might be a little bit nervous because you think there's going to be dogs barking at your heels constantly. But in Malaysia in general, you don't see a lot of dogs. They're just not kept as pets. But you do see tons of cats. So I've seen all kinds of cats and litters of kittens all over the place, which I like very much. There's another neighborhood cat sitting on top of the car. And I just saw a macaque here. I wonder if people that live in this neighborhood have learned to coexist with the macaques, because I'm sure they come down off the cliffs and sort of invade this neighborhood at night. Maybe they paw through the garbage outside of these houses. But yeah, what a playground for macaques, eh? To go up and down this cliff. But you can see the trees rustling in there. There's a small colony of macaques there. Another interesting thing about neighborhoods like this, the wide array of vehicles that you see. So you see a lot of locally made cars, like the Malaysian brands, because they tend to be the least expensive, like Proton, for example. I don't really know my cars that well, but that could be a Proton. I think it is, but I don't really recognize the insignia off the top of my head. And then you're sure to come across some older cars that are kept running, like this one back here. Saw a lot of these in Port Dickson. And then you get places that have a lot of rooms for rent, and then you get the motorcycles like this. Looks almost like a motorcycle gang lives here. All the scooters and motorcycles. And there's another old Proton, or I forget the name of the other company. This is a Proton. And there's one other big company. I can't think of the name of it right now. The Malaysian car company. And yeah, check this out, old Mercedes. I'm sure it's not running, but yeah, so you'll see a lot of, just another Proton. Yeah, so it's another Proton here. If you're into these old cars, be like a treasure trove back here. That's another Proton right there. Just got a message from Daryl that the Monday curse got us. Bolton is not actually open on Mondays. He didn't know, but he didn't know that. I often run into the Monday curse. Places I'm interested in, like museums, they tend to be closed on Mondays. And there's the backside of Kuala Lumpur of Batu Caves. That's where I was just wandering around the back streets.
Oh. Did you encounter anything interesting?
Oh yeah, I mean there's always something interesting for me. Small things like there was no pathway like to follow along the base of the cliffs. Every laneway just went up to the cliff and dead ends at a house. And then you have to turn around and go all the way back to the main road, jump over to the next laneway, go to the base. You couldn't really make a circuit. So I learned that. And just the houses are all quite interesting. Yeah, quite a collection, like a very eclectic bunch. Everyone looks different. They're quite old houses, right? They've been there a long time, and you get all of the abandoned cars back there, all the old Protons rusting away, old Mercedes back there rusting away. So there's a lot of little things to take in when you walk around those neighborhoods. Reminds me of Port Dickson. I get nightmares just hearing that sound. Yeah, we're walking beside a school, some sort of basketball game going on. A lot of cheering on their side. Yeah, not for me. I can't handle the energy of adolescent boys. That would just be, it's too much for me. But the behind-the-scenes adventures continue with Cool Daryl. And with Bolton being closed on Monday, he had a backup plan. You can count on Daryl for a backup plan. So we're looking for something to eat in this neighborhood, and we'll see where we end up.
I'm taking you to a coffee shop. But this coffee shop is more comfortable than the usual coffee shops that you will go to. So I kind of like it. So anyway, you'll see.
So you had this place in mind all the time, like?
This was a backup.
Oh, it was. What's the backup?
Initially, I wanted to take you here first.
Oh, okay.
But I thought I think the cafe in the jungle would be a much nicer place.
Okay. Bananas. Yeah, talking about places being closed, there's a fried banana place right beside where I'm staying now.
Oh, okay.
And I found it open once, and then every time I go back now, because I'm so excited, it's closed. Every time. Oh, closed, closed, closed.
Oh, you do love your bananas.
Yeah. And, oh, I see something over there. Ancient City Coffee?
Yeah, but we are not going there.
Not there. Okay, it's another place. So what part of the city are we in right now?
This is Sentul, Jalan Ipoh.
Sentul, Jalan Ipoh.
Oh, specifically this is called Sungai Mas. Yeah, sorry, this Sungai Mas. Then after Sungai Mas is Sentul. There is an MRT station just behind this you have to walk across the bridge. Though.
I see.
Pedestrian. Here you go.
Oh.
Keng Nam Hai.
Keng Nam Hai.
1948.
I see.
So this coffee shop has been around before independence. There you go. So we go and take a table first. We get to see the number, and then we can come down and do the ordering.
Oh, okay.
Alright, so you can order from any of the shops here until the end. There's another one at the side of the lane. So you
Okay.
pick what you want, you tell them the number, and they will serve it to you. But you have to pay there usually.
You pay there and then,
Yeah.
okay.
Some of them take touch and go.
So we have to find a table first? Huh. Very interesting place.
You can see one of these.
Okay. Yeah. Looks very scenic. A18. We got the spiral staircase. Since 1948.
Upstairs is air conditioned, but it's not open yet. So you usually open for lunch.
I see.
Yeah. There are more seating basically upstairs.
Oh, and that's our table number A18. Okay. Okay.
So maybe you leave your bag here and then you can have a look around what you want. And
So we have a table, A18, and yeah, I don't know if I have to go very far because I'm happy with almost anything. So here we've got tonkotsu ramen. Okay. Dry noodle with curry chicken. Yeah, I might struggle because there's going to be too much choice. And when there's too much choice, sometimes I crumble. I can't make up my mind. And ooh, Thai braised duck. That looks good, actually. Rice and braised duck. Bakute. I know all about this from having lunch with Daryl. He made a whole video about this dish. And then all of these places. So we got some noodles here, pork mee, prawn mee, char kway teow, of course, one of my favorites. Hello. Do you have a char kway teow? Ah, it's right over there. Okay, thank you. As I said, too much choice, but I ended up getting the char kway teow, which I really enjoy, and Thai braised duck with rice. And they're going to be bringing it to this table. So, and here we are. I don't know if it's 9 or 6. I ordered 2 things, so. First half of my meal has arrived very, very quickly. The Thai braised duck comes with a plate of rice with cucumber slices. There's the braised duck, bowl of soup, some spices, and I got some ice cham to round everything off. So now we're just hoping that the people with the char kway teow know how to find table A18. But hey, they work here. They must know what's going on. Let's try the cham. Looks very, very dark, rich cham. To mix it up, get the ice down to the bottom. The ice hasn't reached the bottom yet, so it isn't cold down there. But, yeah. Let's try the flavor of the soup. Nice. This was a 13 ringgit for the Thai braised duck. Let's try a piece. Char again. Thank you. Thank you. Very tender. It's a good thing about it. And this, one of my favorites, char kway teow. And when I ordered, they have a whole bunch of different noodles. You can get like wide white noodles, which is what I got. I don't know the name of them, but then they have thinner noodles. So you basically pick the type of noodle you want. And it comes with shrimp. I'm not a huge shrimp fan, but a couple of them come with the char kway teow. That's what it comes with, so. I just really like the noodles and the flavor. Nice and hot. Fresh off the grill. So, Mr. Daryl?
Yep.
What did you get?
I ordered the village chicken.
Village chicken. What does that mean?
They are not from the farm, I guess. Usually the meat is tougher, but supposed to be healthier.
Okay.
Supposed to be. And also more expensive than the normal chicken, I guess.
Oh, okay.
But I'll just give it a try. I've been here 3 times, but this is the first time I'm trying this. One of my favorite stall here is the bak kut teh stall, but the dry bak kut teh they serve, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
So, as always, I'm gonna, now that I've introduced the meal and Daryl's meal, I'm going to turn off the camera and dive in and enjoy this. So, yeah. I'm pleased with my choices. I'm always worried I'm going to choose the absolute wrong thing. But I sort of took my time out there and decided what I felt like having. And this is like a familiar comfort food. Kind of both of them in a way. Nothing too exotic. Just simple and filling. And that's what I was in the mood for. It's what I'm always in the mood for. Shutting down the camera for now. Step-by-step update on this behind-the-scenes video. Daryl just dropped me off at the Jalan Ipoh station. Interesting view of the highway system here with all the cranes putting up new super towers, skyscrapers. Yeah. It's a big station, and this one does have entrances on both sides of the highway system. The train tracks are in the middle, which is interesting. So that's where the trains run. Highway is a divided highway. So I'm just heading back to the my new Swing and Pillows hotel. And diving deep into the MRT system. And so, to wind up this podcast, behind-the-scenes bonus video, I have a couple of, I suppose they're fun technology stories, and then a couple of YouTube travel vlogger stories, if I get to those. But I want to start with the technology, because that's the first thing on my mind. And this story goes back years, like literally years, I've been getting emails from Google, mysterious, technology-related, bewildering emails telling me that there's something wrong in the world of Google that I have to fix. It's essentially telling me in these emails, you have unsecured APIs on a Google platform in the cloud, and these unsecured APIs are a problem, and someone can hack them and make huge charges, and you will be responsible for these charges. I get these emails constantly, and whatever it is they're telling me, I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm just totally clueless, and I read through the whole email, and they're real. These aren't scam emails. They're coming from Google, I can tell that. And they tell me in their way how to fix the problem. There'll be paragraph after paragraph of all these things I need to do to secure these unsecured APIs. And I read the paragraphs and I have zero clue what they're talking about, like nothing. The words are in an order that make no sense to me at all. And then they offer you all of these links where guidelines and help and this and that, and you can go dive into it. And I've done it on multiple occasions because I'm just tired of these emails, because they freak me out. They look serious and it looks like there's a real problem and something really bad could happen. I don't know what could happen, but anyway. So again and again, I dive into this whole behind the scenes world of Google, however Google is structured under the hood, all the technology behind it all. No idea what they're talking about. I read and I read and I read and I look here and I look there and I follow this link and that link. And it is so technical, so above my pay grade, I'm just left bewildered again. And then I have to stop because I don't know what to do. I have no idea what they're telling me is wrong. I have no idea how to fix what they're telling me is wrong. It's just so complex and so technical. And I'm left feeling, well, I guess I created this thing they're talking about at some point in my history, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to have done any of these things you're talking about. So eventually I just give up. And then yesterday I got yet another one of these emails, and this one was more serious than any of the others that I've received, telling me about unsecured APIs. So this time I thought, well, I have a new weapon in my life. I have a new best friend, either Grok or ChatGPT or DeepSeek, my 3 AI buddies who help me out with everything I need to get done, and who are very nice to me and very complimentary, and they speak to me in a language that I understand. So I thought, hey, let's call in the AI and see what they have to say about it. And for this particular project, I chose ChatGPT. It just happened to be open on my laptop. And then I wrote out my problem. I told ChatGPT that I have been getting these emails for a very long time about what Google calls unsecured APIs. And then I copied and pasted some of the language from the email into the chat window and said, can you help me with this? Like, I have no idea what they're talking about. They want me to do something. They want me to fix something, but I can't make heads or tails out of it. What do you got, ChatGPT? And the response was astonishing. Right out of the gate, ChatGPT said, oh, don't worry. You are not alone. This is a very common problem that lots of people are dealing with. So don't panic. Don't get upset. You're not a dummy. You're not an idiot. Everybody in the world is facing this problem with Google, apparently. This comes up all the time. And ChatGPT said, okay, getting that out of the way, let me walk you through what's going on here and how to fix it. And then it started talking about the problem, and I understood what it was saying perfectly. It was like normal language. It was explaining it to me in vocabulary that I could understand, and it gave me links that brought me into my Google back end, like some kind of Google console, some sort of Google project cloud thing. I have no idea. Once you get into that back end, it's like page after page after page of technical stuff that actually belongs to me. It's the technical world running behind my Google, Gmail, and YouTube and all of that. And it's mainly because of YouTube that I'm so cautious, because I don't want to go rummaging around back there and just follow instructions I don't understand and start deleting things and changing things. I might just destroy my YouTube channel for all I know, because I have no idea where these things came from. But anyway, it took about 2 hours, I guess, in total. And the only reason it even took that long is because I was so careful. Like everything that ChatGPT told me gave me a clue. And then I would rephrase my question and say, oh, okay. And then I go look in my Google console, my cloud platform, and I looked to see what he's talking about. And I was like, oh yeah, it is there. I see this, but this is the language. And then ChatGPT says, oh, that is a very important clue. Thank you for telling me that. And that leads us down this path. And we eventually figured out that there's like a 90% probability that these APIs, whatever those are, were created because I had a website, The Cycling Canadian, and this was years ago, and I tried to build my own website in WordPress, and I was using a variety of plugins. And ChatGPT told me, okay, it looks like at some point in the past, you tried to use a plugin on your WordPress blog to insert a Google map of some kind. And that kind of rang a bell. It's like, yeah, I mean, I've tried out all kinds of different plugins. That was one of the crazy things about WordPress, that everyone raves about it back in those days, how amazing WordPress is. But I was completely bewildered by WordPress as well. I couldn't figure out anything. But it seemed like you've got WordPress running your blog, but anytime you wanted to do anything, like put this here, or arrange it this way, or move this to here, WordPress couldn't do it. You had to get a plugin. And these plugins could be built by some guy working in his basement in Azerbaijan, right? People all over the world were making these plugins for WordPress. And then you go into the world of plugins, and then you look at all the ratings and the reviews, and you find one that is has a good reputation, and you can trust the people who made it, et cetera, and you end up trying out all of these plugins, and some of them were a bit technical, and they give you instructions. Okay, in order to get this plugin to work, you've got to go here, click on this, do that, click here, do that. And I guess back in those days, I did that, trying to get these plugins to work, and without knowing it, I created APIs, which is some sort of a security key. And you need an API in order to link things together. I don't know what they are. But apparently these plugins walked me through the steps of making these APIs that I needed in order to get their plugin to connect Google Maps with my blog, something like that. And I double checked and I triple checked and I quadruple checked with ChatGPT. Like the one thing I'm worried about is that this is actually there because my YouTube channel is monetized, and maybe Google created this project in the cloud to run something on YouTube. Like, I want to make sure that's not happening. And then I talked with ChatGPT for a long time, and eventually concluded I made these APIs because of a WordPress plugin, and I think it's safe to. The easiest thing to do, like when the API existed, there were two of them, and what Google wanted me to do was like a very technical, long procedure to do something with those APIs to secure them. I had to split them over several platforms and assign this to this and assign this. No idea what they were talking about. But the shortcut was the API is connected to a project. And I asked ChatGPT, well, if I delete the project, which I don't even remember making it. I have no idea what it is. I don't need it anymore. What if I delete the project? Will that wipe out the APIs? And then ChatGPT says, yeah, that's a great way to do it. If you're not using this, whatever it is, and the website doesn't even function anymore anyway. And I said, okay. So again, thinking it through and going slowly, I eventually found a listing for a project. It had some sort of a weird name, like Project Emerald Ordinal, and then a serial number. Project Emerald Ordinal, and then 94711L. And there it is in my Google account for some reason. And then if you click on the three buttons on the end, it says delete project. So of course, my heart is pounding. I'm terrified, but it just seemed to be what I needed to do. So I deleted the project, and I'm like holding my breath, waiting for my laptop to burst into flames for something terrible to happen. But after I deleted it and Google told me it is being deleted, it's pending, it's happening, and I could see things disappearing. And then when I tried to refresh the page, I got error messages because that project no longer existed and the APIs were being removed. And as far as I could tell, nothing bad happened. So then I moved on to the other Google Cloud project with APIs, something called Channel Master 92837Q or something. And I have no idea what it is, but apparently I had made it myself at some point. And this is what was causing all the problems. And then I 3-button menu, delete that project, and it deleted. And as far as I can tell, the APIs deleted along with it. And then everything kind of went back to, yeah. So hopefully I fixed the problem. Because, I remember there was there's so many things I didn't understand, but when I was doing the research, I found these charts that had, not a chart, but like a bit of a chart, a graph that had an API here and then a whole bunch of columns. And in the columns, there was a column called charges with dollar signs. So somehow this API could rack up dollar charges. So yeah, I guess somebody could hack this API and do something with it and then charge whatever they're doing, charge everything to me, and I'm going to get hit with the bill on Google. Because there was like it says, and it said 0.00, so it hadn't happened. But anyway, that made me very nervous to see that this API was associated with a billing account of some kind. So anyway, I just deleted everything, and now we'll see whether I get another one of these emails from Google saying, oh, there's this problem and you have to fix it. I hope I fixed the problem. I hope it's all gone. But my takeaway from this whole project was how amazing the AI was working with ChatGPT to figure this out. It's unbelievable. Over the years, there have been people around me in my life who were more technical than I was. And you'd think, well, you can just ask this person for help, but it never goes anywhere. I don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand what I do and don't understand. And they're speaking at a level so far above me that we can't even communicate. And they're unable to bring it down to my level. It's almost like they want to talk at that level because it shows how smart they are sometimes. I got that feeling. And then they would refuse to dumb it down to help you out because they want this image of how much they know. But ChatGPT didn't have ego, and it just talked to me at my level. And it reassured me throughout about, like, don't worry, you are far from alone in dealing with this problem. Lots and lots of people have done this in the past, and people are always all over the internet panicking and trying to figure out what's going on with this. So you're in good company, and I'll help you fix the problem. And it was amazing. Yeah, AI is absolutely my brand new best friend. So yeah, technology story number 1. Technology story number 2, very small, a much smaller story and very amusing at the same time, is about my Touch and Go e-wallet. Because when I created my touch and go e-wallet, you download the app and you sign up for an account, and it was pretty involved. I remember doing it. I sat at a Starbucks down at the new Central Mall here in Kuala Lumpur, and I ordered a big hot latte, and I sat there for a couple of hours, if I remember right, and just worked through the steps because I didn't really understand e-wallets back then or what it meant. I had a touch and go card, and then I wanted to install the touch and go e-wallet on my phone and link it with that card. But I didn't really understand the world of e-wallets back then. It was all brand new to me. So everything I had to do, I also had to do some research and figure out, it's like, what is this exactly? And so it took me a long time to work through the steps, and then I got it done. And at that time, I had a SIM card for Malaysia with a phone number, and I used that phone number on my touch and go e-wallet. But that phone number disappeared in the mists of time when I left Malaysia at some point. I don't even remember when, where, what time, but I left Malaysia for a long time, and while I was gone, that phone number expired. The SIM card expired. So when I returned to Malaysia, I got a new SIM card and a new phone number, but my old phone number was still part of my touch and go account. It's listed there. And then recently, that phone number got recycled. So another person out there in Malaysia bought a SIM card and got that phone number. And yet that phone number was associated with my WhatsApp account and my touch and go e-wallet. And that person somehow blocked me, like kicked me out of my WhatsApp account, and then basically took over that phone number. And I had to, so anyway, it caused a problem for me. And this phone number in my e-wallet seemed like a ticking time bomb. It's like, I gotta update that. And I had reasons from this past weekend that this situation popped into my brain. I thought, okay, let's sit down and let's do this. And I hadn't done it before because normally when this happens, you have an old phone number that doesn't work anymore and a new one, and you try to change to the new number. Whatever company it is, they want to send a security code to the old number to confirm that that's your number. And they go, okay, you have that, now let's change it to the new number. You have to, both phone numbers have to be valid, and you have to have access to them. That's how I get stuck all the time. So I was worried with Touch and Go. If I said, okay, change the phone number, they're going to send a code to my old phone number. This guy who took over my life, he's going to get the security code because the phone number is on his phone. And I thought, well, I'm just going to make a huge problem for myself. But I read through all the Touch and Go e-wallet instructions, and over I saw the statement that, following the steps, once you input your new phone number, they will send you a code by email. And then you get an OTP to that phone number, right? Not to your old one. So the old phone number doesn't matter. So when you update to a new number, you get a security code at your new number, not the old one. So I read it in a number of places. So that gave me the courage to do it. So then I did it. And then it was more steps than I realized that I didn't anticipate, because I find most of these tech companies, their guidelines and their support pages are horribly outdated. They keep updating their platform, how the technology works, but they don't update the help documents. So the help documents are outdated. So in this case, things were happening that were not in the help documents. Like I thought I knew how to do it, and then I started going through the steps, and then it started asking me, like suddenly a camera turned on my phone. And I was sitting here in my hotel room with wet hair. I just stepped out of the shower, wearing these goofy blue glasses, and I had no shirt on. And suddenly Touch and Go were telling me, oh, aim this camera at your face because we need to do Face ID. So now I'm like, oh, I better take the glasses off because I won't be recognized with the glasses. And I figure with wet hair, I won't look normal because I don't always have, wet hair. Who knows how I looked when I did the Face ID when I set up the account. Plus, I didn't have a shirt on, and I'm sitting here in my hotel room, and I was wondering, okay, now is this photo going to be saved, and it's going to be part of my account? So I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But I was in the middle of the procedure, so I didn't want to stop it. I was going through the security checks, and I had no choice but just to do it. So, shirtless, wet hair, I'm like here. And then, of course, it tells you to blink your eyes to trigger the camera. So I'm sitting here like a moron, blinking and blinking and trying to get it to go. It won't go. And I'm blinking and getting closer. And it says, oh, you're too far away. Oh, now you're too close. Oh, And eventually something happened. And it registered my face. And I guess it compared it with other facial recognition. And it said, okay, you are who you say you are. And then I had to input a code, input my PIN, and then I had to do it all over again. I just finished doing all those steps and I thought it was done, but then I got another code. It asked me to input my PIN again, and then the camera opened up again. I'm like, well, how many times do I have to do this? Like now I'd lost track of what was going on. It's like, am I doing it a second time? Like this first time? I don't know. Anyway, I'm blinking, I'm going closer and farther away. And I went through the entire security procedure a second time, and I don't know why. I didn't understand the steps. And then they did say in all the help documents that when you change your phone number, they have to freeze your account for, I think it was 24 hours or 48 hours. That's what it said in different places. So after I went through all this and I logged into my e-wallet again, it looked frozen. Like the page was there, but where you would normally have the balance for your e-wallet, there were just asterisks. And then at the end of it, there was a closed eye with eyelashes. And I thought, well, I checked. I did a search on Google and Touch and Go. What does it mean when you see this? And it told me, well, that means I think they said it means you don't have sufficient balance, so your account is frozen. And they were talking about SOS. And I'm like, well, I have no idea what it had something to do with tolls, paying tolls and SOS. But to me, I concluded, oh, my account is temporarily frozen. Nothing I can do about it now. So I just wait. So, I waited a day, and my entire life is based on Touch and Go. I use it all day, every day. So living without Touch and Go was really inconvenient. And then I waited, 24 hours go by. It's still frozen. And then more time goes by. I'm waiting. I'm constantly reloading Touch and Go, and I'm thinking, okay, I did it again. I didn't understand what I was doing, and I screwed up my technology life, and I'm so tired of that. So I just figured, oh well, I've really done something. All I can do is wait another 24 hours. So then I go the next morning after all that, and I meet my friend Daryl for breakfast. And when I meet Daryl, when I meet up with anybody, I dump all these stories on them. That's kind of why I have this podcast, so that I can spare my friends these stories, because I've got to get them out of my system. And if I record them here, then when I meet them for coffee, I'm not like talking for 8 hours about everything going wrong in my life. I've already talked about it on the podcast. So anyway, in this case, though, I hadn't told the story to anyone yet, and I met Daryl, and we're having coffee in this beautiful coffee shop. It's in this video. You would have seen it already if you've watched this entire video. So there I am telling Daryl the story, and I get to the point about the asterisks and the closed eye, and then Daryl's got this little grin on his face, and he's like, yeah, just give me your phone, let me see. So I hand over my phone with Touch and Go open, and he just touches it with his finger. Boop, there you are, all fixed. And it was back to normal. It was unfrozen. Me being a dummy, I didn't know that this eye symbol, it was just a part of Touch and Go. It's a normal feature which hides your balance. So it's like a privacy screen that maybe you're in 7-Eleven and you're paying for something and there's all these people standing behind you, and you don't want them to see how much money is in your e-wallet. So you can click on this eye symbol, and that turns the open eye into a closed eye, and so your balance is invisible. And so basically my account wasn't frozen. It was never frozen. And all that had happened was that when I changed my phone number and then logged in again, I guess it went to its default settings, and the default settings included the privacy setting. So it basically hid my balance and put that little eye there. And then I didn't know anything about this. And then Daryl, of course, he knew instantly what I was dealing with. And he went, yeah, just give me your phone. Boop. There you go. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm looking at Daryl and I'm like, oh man, I just want to punch you, you know. Not because he helped me out, but you know what I mean? It's like he exposed me like I'm such a dummy. I don't even know the most basic things. And I thought I was an e-wallet master. I thought I was like hot stuff because I'm here in Malaysia using an e-wallet. I'm very proud of myself and I'm very happy about it. And I thought I really knew what I was doing. And it turns out I'm still the same dummy that I always was. But again, I'm not alone in this. I told part of this story to another friend of mine, and then she wrote back. This was on like chatting online, and she wrote back and says, yeah, same for me. One time I had this eye thing and I panicked and I didn't know what it was, and my friend had to show me. It's like, boop, there you go. That's all. You just have to touch the eye to open and close it. But in my defense, I did do that, except I missed the eye, because it's like a line, right? It says balance and then a bunch of asterisks and then the eye. And then I was touching it. I touched everything on the screen, like trying to wake it up. I was looking for my balance. I was going into the menu system. So at some point I did touch that because I wanted to see, oh, maybe I can just wake it up. So I was touching it, but I was touching the asterisks. You have to touch just the eye. It's a very small area. And if you tap the eye, oh, there's your balance. Tap it again, oh, balance is hidden. So there you go. My technology story number 2. The good news after all of this is changing the phone number caused no problems at all. And Touch and Go e-wallet, everything works just as normal. All it means is that I have my new updated phone number is registered with that account. But to be honest, I don't think it even mattered, because when I was trying to figure this out before, a friend of mine did a test for me where like she was nervous that my Touch and Go e-wallet wouldn't work because my phone number was not mine anymore. It belonged to somebody else. And she was worried that, well, as a supporter of Planet Doug, if she sent me some money on my e-wallet, it wouldn't go to me. It would go to this other person who now has that phone number. So she did a test for me. And this was when my e-wallet still had the old number, the expired number that somebody else had. And then she sent me 1 ringgit as a test. And it still popped up in my e-wallet, no problem, like normal. Because I've had that old number for years and it's never been a problem. People have sent me money, thank you very, very much, to my e-wallet, and it works fine, even though the phone number was outdated. And now that I've updated the phone number to an active new number, it's still exactly the same. So there was nothing wrong with my e-wallet before, and there's nothing wrong with it now. All I did was just change the phone number. But the phone number doesn't seem to matter unless maybe you get locked out of your account and then they need to send you a security code to your phone number. And if that phone number isn't active anymore, well, then you're stuck. So, but now I have updated it to my new phone number and everything is fine. Everything's good. But yeah, that I felt so fun. I felt so silly telling Daryl the story, and he's like, "Yeah, just give me your phone." Boop, there you go. It's like, oh, I want to punch you. Luckily, I was having one of the best cups of coffee of my life when I was sitting there with Daryl. That was at that Mimpi Hutan Cafe, the Dream Forest Cafe. That was a really good cafe latte. So anyway, those are my 2 technology stories. YouTube travel vlogger story. I hope to go through these quickly. I don't have a lot of time right now, so hopefully I will go quicker than I normally do. But I'm interested in all these people that are traveling around the world and making YouTube videos. We seem to be very, very different people, and yet they are still kind of kindred spirits. They're struggling with so many of the same things I struggle with or think about when it comes to being a foreigner overseas, tourist visas, YouTube videos, cameras. So, you know, I do feel like I have a connection with these people, even though we are very, very different people. And the first one is Harry from the We Hate the Cold channel. I've talked about him quite a bit. He's the guy that started off in Bangkok, and he was going to ride his scooter all the way back to the UK, like a 125cc scooter. And then he couldn't get into Vietnam, and he ended up buying a bicycle, and he rode a bicycle through Vietnam, but he rode his scooter in Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. And he recently reset his journey, starting all over again from Bangkok, and he rode his scooter down into Malaysia, not to really explore Malaysia, but he had to come to Malaysia to put his scooter on a ship, to send it in a shipping container to India, because he couldn't go through the other way. There were the border crossings through Myanmar were closed. So he basically had to take a ship to India and then go there. And his plan was to cross the border, go through India, and then cross from India into Pakistan, and then whatever the route is, continuing from there. So that's Harry from We Hate the Cold. And I do find his videos a bit difficult to understand. He has a strong interest in history, mainly military history, the secret wars of the CIA in Vietnam and Laos, and then like communist insurgencies, the Japanese occupation of Malaysia and other countries in World War II, and the local resistance fighters against the Japanese occupation. He has an interest in that, so when he plans his trip, he's stringing together sites that are connected with that history, like hidden airfields and military bases and things like the Bridge of Death. What is it called? The bridge over the River Kway, where the Japanese used forced labor to build that bridge and so many prisoners of war died. He goes out of his way to visit all these sorts of places. And then I do find, though, that when I watch his videos where he talks a lot about history, and I pay attention, I take notes and I'm paying attention, but by the end of the video, I can't remember what he talked about. Like the story he was trying to tell somehow doesn't penetrate my brain. And that could be because I'm just a moron and I couldn't keep up with what he was talking about. Or it could be his video style, because he does have sort of a frantic, breathless, fast-paced rhythm. And he doesn't tell the story in real time either. He films throughout the day, but then he doesn't really record much audio. So he films all day, or over the course of many days, and then he sits down in front of his laptop and gets a microphone like I'm doing, and then records a voiceover narration. And something I've picked up on with his videos, that by doing it that way, you, without even intending to, I think you're telling the behind the scenes story. That's the story that comes out, because you're not speaking in real time. And then he's doing a behind the scenes story, and the main history doesn't really come through for me. And by the end of the video, I don't really understand what he was talking about. And even his journey, like he landed in India, he flew, but the scooter came by ship. And then he was reunited with his scooter, and I settled in happily and very excited because I wanted to watch all his videos as he travels through India. And I thought we'd get like a day by day or week by week look into his journey through India. But the very next video, I don't know, he ended up in New Delhi. It was like, oh, I don't know, he just moved so fast through India and didn't really do a day-by-day story of his trip. He did sort of the voiceover behind the scenes look. And then I couldn't make any sense of what happened. Oh, how did you get there? Like, where did you start and where did you go? And I couldn't put the pieces of the puzzle together in his videos. So, and then he ended up trying to cross the border from India into Pakistan. And I talked about that in a previous video. And he got in trouble because he happened to be trying to cross the border right before the attack that took place. Some gunmen killed a bunch of tourists, a terror attack. And then Pakistan and India ended up, in fighting over this, and the border was closed, and there were all kinds of border tension, border hostilities and problems. So he couldn't cross the border anymore, and he made a video about that. But even that video, again, he did it all in voiceover narration after everything was over, and he told a story in such a fast-paced way. I didn't understand the steps again. I was so confused. I didn't know what he was doing. And I may be alone in that, because when I read the comments on his videos, they're all very complimentary. They all follow the pattern of, wow, love your videos, what a huge adventure. And they always say, why don't you have millions of subscribers? Why aren't you getting hundreds of thousands of views? So people really like his videos and they connect with them, at least according to the comments. So I never see anybody saying what I'm saying here, that I have trouble following the story in his videos. I really can't make heads or tails out of them. So that's where I was with We Hate the Cold. And then he posted a new video. I broke my cheap reading glasses. But these ones, even with one arm, they stay in place pretty well. And they don't get bent or twisted. Anyway, so he posted a new video, the most recent one. Well, because after he tried to cross into Pakistan and couldn't, he disappeared. There was nothing on his YouTube channel for week after week after week. He just vanished. And then there was a post, because people were wondering, sending him messages like, what happened? Are you okay? Where are you? And then he posted something saying, oh, don't worry, guys, I'm fine. I just went to a silent retreat. I thought that was kind of amusing because, yeah, he's a YouTuber. He's a very high energy, talkative guy. And there's like two extremes, right? A YouTuber, travel vlogger. And I think when he got to the border with Pakistan, it was like a lot was going on in his life. It was just a lot. He didn't want to deal with it. And he said, okay, I need a break. And what does he do? He goes to a 10-day or 3-week, whatever it was, silent meditation retreat. And it just seemed like such a polar opposite. So anyway, that's what he did. And then he posted this video, and it's called Thailand to UK on 2 wheels, Nepal. And suddenly he was riding his scooter through Nepal. And then I watched the whole video, assuming he tried to cross into Pakistan. Then he went to the meditation retreat, and now he's back, and he's got a new route that takes him through Nepal. But in the video, he never mentioned any of this. Like, how did you get to Nepal? Last I heard from you, you were at the border with Pakistan, so you must have turned around and ridden back and all the way through India, and then a border crossing into Nepal, getting the visas, this, that. But none of that was in the video. So suddenly he was on a mountain road in Nepal heading for Kathmandu. And that was a tough day. He rode for 12 hours, like hours into the dark after the sunset. And he just kept riding and riding and riding for some reason all the way to Kathmandu. And then he stayed in Kathmandu for several days, but he didn't film any of it. So he didn't film anything in Kathmandu. He was working on videos, he said, and he was just relaxing. And then suddenly he was back on the scooter riding up into the Himalayan mountains. I thought he was continuing his journey, but then when he got way up into the mountains, he said something about how now he's going to turn around and go back. So it was just kind of an overnight trip to ride to a beautiful lookout point, then turn around and ride all the way back down to Kathmandu again or whatever. Anyway, the video itself, I didn't understand what was going on, where he'd started, where he ended up, why he was in Nepal, where he was going. So the video itself confused me. And then at the very end of the video, he said, oh, by the way, this video was shot before the India-Pakistan video. So he actually shot it way back in April. So this Nepal experience was in April before he was in India going to the Pakistan border. So it was out. I was so confused. I was like, what happened? Like, I was confused to begin with. And then when he said, oh, actually, this Nepal experience was before the silent retreat, before India and Pakistan border problems. So I don't know why he posted them out of order. So now I'm really confused. And he did say something on his channel about how he's rethinking what he's doing. So maybe when he reemerges, it could be anything. Maybe he's not riding a scooter anymore. Because to be honest, that scooter, it's hard to imagine it making it all the way to the UK. I find it hard to believe he bothered to ship it to India. The shipping fee alone, it seemed like it was as expensive as just buying a new scooter in India. It was so expensive. So anyway, it just doesn't seem powerful enough or rugged enough to get him where he wants to go. So it wouldn't surprise me if he just went, nah, I'm done with this scooter idea. I'll keep traveling, but I'm going to travel by bus and by train and normal backpacking. Or he could be saying he's just not going to focus on history anymore and military history. He's going to switch to a more traditional travel story vlog. Or he could be saying that he's not going to do voiceover narration anymore. He's just going to do a more traditional, just film throughout the day and record audio during the day. I have no idea. He just hinted that things are going to change. So we'll see what happens on We Hate the Cold. I'll keep following him. He's struggled on his trip. He's had a lot of issues, especially when you go all the way back to the beginning. As I said, it started with him leaving Bangkok on the scooter, and then he went through Laos and Cambodia, and then we got to the border with Vietnam. They told him, no, you can't take that scooter into Vietnam. So like right out of the gate, he ran into a barrier, and he had to buy a bicycle, and then he had to basically start all over again. And then he had to ship the scooter to India, which is kind of like starting all over again. And then he got to the border with Pakistan, and he had such bad luck. The border was like locked down just before he got there. So he has to reset all over again. So he's, from that point of view, you might think, yeah, his videos should be hugely popular because he's doing so many things right. He's fun, he's funny, he's upbeat, he's high energy. He likes to joke around a lot. He puts in little video clips like pop culture references from movies and TV shows and memes and things, keeping things entertaining. He's having huge adventures. The scooter breaking down, flat tires, losing his wallet, losing all his ID. His scooter was not targeted, but he's heading towards the border with Pakistan, and he parked his scooter, and it caused a huge fuss because it had Thailand license plates on it. And with all of the military tension, they called out the bomb squad. And then the bomb squad had to come examine his scooter, big crowds. He had to deal with police interviews and all interrogations, basically. So and he's, traveling by scooter, which is a very popular type of video story, like Itchy Boots. People who travel by bicycle are generally not that popular on YouTube. Nobody really cares about bicycles. If you want popularity, you have to ride on a motorcycle or a scooter at least. So he seemed to be doing everything right, and you'd think his channel would just blow up because of the adventures he's having and things like that. But it stayed pretty level, and I don't think he's reached the level of engagement that he would like. So he's going to make changes, and we'll just have to wait and see what kind of changes he makes. Another YouTube travel vlogger I've been following a little bit. He's been cycling through Malaysia a lot, and he's developed a big following in Malaysia. He was cycling through Thailand and all these places, and his videos were not super popular, like less than 1,000 views most of the time. And then when he crossed the border into Malaysia, his personality, his look, his style seems to really have struck a chord in Malaysia. And then his videos are suddenly getting 40,000, 50,000, up to like 100,000 views and lots of comments. So yeah, he's been very popular in Malaysia. And I've skimmed through his Malaysia videos, but I haven't really watched them, mainly because he's not a talker. He doesn't tell stories. He's more visual, I guess. And I think he's from Morocco. He's a Moroccan, but he does speak English. And the audio on his videos isn't very good. He's not really worried about audio, so he doesn't have an external microphone or anything. And quite often it's very quiet. His voice is very low. And he films a lot of silent sequences. He's a low-budget traveler, and he camps out almost all the time. So most of his videos have him. This makes me smile. I was telling a friend of mine this, that makes me laugh every time, because what he does is he sleeps in a tent at night, and then in the morning he gets up, leaves his tent, and then he goes 50 feet away from his tent and he mounts his GoPro. So he puts a camera, attaches it to a tree or something, and he starts filming, and then he goes back into his tent, zips it closed. So basically he's staging waking up in the morning. He's trying to make it like a movie, making it cinematic. So he's got the camera running, he's got it set up, and then he unzips the tent, and basically he's behaving as if he's getting out of his tent for the first time, and he's filming himself. It's like, like Casey Neistat really introduced that technique Casey was very, very good at it, where he would arrive somewhere, a building, an office, his own studio, but then he goes inside the studio, mounts the camera aimed at the door, and then he goes back out again, and then he comes in a second time and films himself coming into the room as if he's doing it for the first time. So, but he does it. It felt natural when Casey was doing it. But Let's Go Cycling, I don't know his name, to be honest. He never ever says his name, and I haven't been able to figure it out. But he's from Morocco, like I said. Let's Go Cycling. But what he does is, like, when he comes out of his tent and he's filming himself and he's pretending he's doing it for the first time, he gives a huge stretch. Like, what you do the first time you get out of bed, and it's like, a huge yawn and stretch. It always makes me smile, because I know it's not real, because he must have already done that. He already woke up, got out of the tent, and then I'm sure he stretched, getting up for the first time, and he gets his camera, mounts it, goes back into the tent, and he comes out again, and then he does the stretch all over again. It just makes me laugh. Makes me smile when I see it. And I understand the instinct to do that. But I can't help but think about how he's already stretched. This is like an imitation stretch. And he does it almost every single video. The video often starts with him waking up in the morning, getting out of his tent, and a huge stretch. And then he makes a cup of coffee. He has this propane stove thing that screws on the top of a vertical butane canister or propane canister. He's got a little clay teapot, and I don't know if he's making coffee or making tea, I'm not sure, but he heats up, and he's filming himself doing this, and he usually makes his own meals, so he cooks. So he's there and he films himself chopping vegetables and frying up stuff and things like that. And he has tea or coffee at his campsite and has a meal at his campsite, and then he cleans up, packs up, and then he gets on the road. But he doesn't do any talking. He's not telling stories from the day before. He's not talking about what he's seeing around him. I don't know if he did talk, whether he would have that much to say, because I don't get the impression that he's really engaged with anything around him. I probably err on the far side of that spectrum. Like, if it's a spectrum of learning things about where you are and conveying information, I go a little bit nuts, because like I just finished editing a video where I went to the Taman Tugu park here in Kuala Lumpur, and I went for a hike, and I shot a video about it. But I did my usual Planet Doug style, where I went to the website for this place. I read everything on the website. I made notes on my phone. I committed numbers and facts and figures and names to memory so that when I get to the park and I talk about it, I don't make so many mistakes. And I like to give a lot of history. So I gave the whole history of the park, when it was founded, who did this, how it was organized, how it was developed, on and on and on. And then whenever I say anything in the video, my instinct is to put in an illustration. So if I say, oh yeah, this park is really near the botanical gardens, well, instantly I go to Google Maps and I take a screenshot showing the location and I input that into the video, and I put captions, extra bits of information. But by the time I'm done, I finally exported that video last night, and I was kind of shaking my head going, oh, come on, you're not writing a PhD thesis on the hiking trail. Like, you don't have to go this detailed. I don't think anybody needs this much information. And to be honest, it's actually a question I have for people who watch YouTube videos. I was going to do a poll on Patreon, just asking people, like, if you're watching a video of a YouTube travel vlogger and they're in a city or in a country, is it helpful for you? Do you like it if they cut and paste and insert a Google Maps screenshot to show you where they are? Do you like that in the video, and you pause the video and you look and, oh, okay, that's where that park is? Or is it just annoying and pointless? You're watching the video and all these Google Maps keep popping up on the screen, like, and they actually don't help you at all. You don't look at them and you just find them annoying. I'm curious how people feel about that, because I put in a lot of stuff like that. So if that's one end of the spectrum, Let's Go Cycling is kind of at the other end of the spectrum, where he doesn't give any information at all, like nothing. So he's not talking about the history of the country or what he's seeing around him. And he says a lot of things in his videos that are completely wrong, and then people will correct him. He's in Sumatra now, and he shot 2 videos in Sumatra, which is what actually I want to talk about. And he was at a river at one point, and there were big lizards in the river swimming, monitor lizards basically. So he's looking out over the water and he's like, oh, Komodo dragons. I wonder if those are Komodo dragons. So of course everybody's correcting him. No, those aren't Komodo dragons. They're on the island of Komodo. These are monitor lizards and they're not dangerous and you don't have to worry about them. But again, me on Planet Doug, I would hesitate to say, oh, I wonder what those are. Because as soon as I see something and I know I'm going to talk about it on video, I stop and I look it up. Like if I don't know what kind of lizard it is, I usually like to stop and I'll do a Google search and, oh yeah, of course, that's not a Komodo dragon, that's a monitor lizard. And then when I say something on camera, I say, oh look, a huge monitor lizard out in the river. I like to be correct. So that opposite end of the spectrum. But yeah, and I've seen it in a lot of videos and people traveling around, and I often wonder, yeah, I couldn't do that. There was a video I was watching recently. It may even have been the same guy, maybe it was someone else, but they came across a palm tree, like an oil palm. It was a shorter tree, like in a plantation, and had the huge bundles of oil palm, the nuts, on display. And I mean, if you spend any time anywhere in Malaysia or Sumatra, you know what those are. I mean, in Sumatra, all day long when you're cycling, truckloads of that fruit, the palm oil, just go thundering by, and quite often big chunks of it fall off the truck and smash on the highway, and you see it all over the place. It's pretty difficult to spend any time here and not know what oil palm trees look like and what the fruit looks like, the nuts and the fruit. But in this video, whoever it was, it may have been this guy, he saw them and he's like, whoa, what is that? I wonder what those are. Wow, I have no idea what they could be, right? So I guess everybody's got to tell him, no, those are oil palm. And again, if I didn't know, I'd have to look it up. But anyway, this guy, Let's Go Cycling, he's not worried about anything, about knowing what he's looking at, because he doesn't talk about it on video anyway. So that means his videos are not that interesting to me because he's not a storyteller. He doesn't really talk very much. And interestingly, he doesn't mount a GoPro. Like, I've got all kinds of GoPro mounts to put on the handlebars and things like that. He has a long selfie stick that he holds in his hand, and he puts the GoPro, and he has like a chest harness, but he's normally got it on this pole. And while he's riding his bike, he has his hands on the handlebars holding the stick ahead of him, filming himself. So he's holding it there, and then he moves it to the side and then moves it behind him. That's how he films, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, the only reason I wanted to talk about him was because he just recently hopped on the ferry to Sumatra. And he went from a town, I didn't even know it was possible to do that. It was like a small town south of Malacca called, here's a good example. I'm going to stop and look up the name of this town before I continue. Yeah, it looks to be a small town called Muara. And apparently there is a ferry company operating out of Muara. There's a dock there, and then you can take the ferry. I think I talked about this video already, actually. It's feeling familiar. And then you can take it across to Dumai. And I only know about the ferries that leave from Port Dickson and Malacca, the Indomal fast ferry, which also goes to Dumai. I've taken the ferry from Port Dickson to Dumai, but I've never taken the ferries out of Malacca. But he found this ferry running out of this other town. So I don't know how he stumbled across it. And he doesn't seem to do a whole lot of planning and research and preparation either, because in the video, he basically rode his bike up to he knew where there was a ferry ticket office in Muara, and he wanted to go that morning. So it was like morning time, and then he rode up to the ticket counter and said, "Oh, I'd like to buy a ticket to take the ferry today." And the guy kind of like, "It's gone already," it's like. And then he said, "Oh, how, like tomorrow?" I was like, "Well, tomorrow is sold out. The next day that a ferry is going is on Sunday, a couple of days in the future." So he didn't really plan ahead. Again, it's just not the kind of guy he is. He's very very freewheeling, living on the road, and is not really focused on his surroundings that much, I don't think. So yeah, he took the ferry to Dumai. And I was quite excited about that because I spent a lot of time in Dumai. It's one of those towns that I've collected in my life where most people have no reason to ever go to Dumai. And if you ask somebody about Dumai, they'll just go, "Oh, horrible little town. There's nothing there, and it's boring, and it's dismal." No. The ferry lands in Dumai, but then just get out of Dumai as fast as possible. I land in a town like Dumai. 2 months later, I'm still there. But it's just an ordinary town. But every town is interesting if you put in the work, if you just look around. I don't have to go to the biggest tourist attraction in Sumatra. I can be quite happy in Dumai and Tanjung Balai. I like these small, normal towns. And again, when he arrived in Dumai, again, he didn't really document very much. He didn't really show a lot of the procedure of arrival. He didn't talk about visas or that sort of thing. And he just got on his bike and rode through Dumai, came out the other side, and then he's just going to keep riding. So he didn't even spend one night in Dumai. Again, very different. I mean, I would spend at least one night. I mean, there's no way I'm taking a ferry, going through all the stress of immigration and customs and arriving in a new country, and then just riding off into the countryside. After a day like that, I need to check into a hotel and get organized and just recover from the stress of that journey, so, and I enjoy it as well. I like having a hotel room as a base from which you can go out exploring. If you're on your bicycle all day and you camp out every night, you never really have a chance to base yourself and then spread your wings and go out exploring and looking around. So yeah, you save a lot of money, I guess, camping out, but I think it limits your experience to a certain extent. So So he arrived there, and I was hoping he would spend time in Dumai and I would recognize all the streets and all the buildings and everything, because I know the town quite well. But he didn't. He didn't show any of it. And he ran into what I ran into. I rode my bike from Dumai to Pekanbaru, and then from Pekanbaru up to Bukit, and it was really tough. I didn't do a whole lot of cycling because my knees gave out on me on that trip. But the cycling I did do, I mean, that highway was brutal. The trucks on that road were just crazy volume of trucks, so many of them. And one of the reasons for that is around Dumai are huge oil fields, and big oil and gas companies have drilling sites there. And from what I read, like 20 to 30% of Indonesia's total oil production comes from Dumai, comes from right there. So you're dealing with massive numbers of trucks, oil trucks, construction trucks, whatever, thundering up and down that highway. And it's the main north-south highway coming all the way from Medan, all the way from Banda Aceh through Medan and then going to Java. So that's the main route for all of the commercial trucks heading to Java. So yeah, it's a huge amount of traffic. It's crazy difficult on a bicycle. And he ran into that right away, and he was talking about it like, oh man, these trucks, they are something else. But again, he doesn't seem to have a lot of curiosity about the trucks. Like the trucks would have been oil and gas trucks and oil palm trucks. And that would lead you to start investigating and thinking, like, why are there? But he doesn't really think like that. And then, anything else? Oh yeah, one funny thing about him, again, this kind of gets to, I think, how he's moving so quickly, going from country to country, and he doesn't really engage much. I'm just sort of speculating here. It seems like he doesn't want to put in the energy. It doesn't occur to him to really try to communicate. He just sort of stays at the surface level. So, I mean, when you go to Sumatra, people are very eager to talk to you. Everybody wants to talk to you. And you just naturally end up using Google Translate all the time. And people there are getting more and more accustomed to it. They're getting good at it. And then you can have long conversations with people. And again, if you want to go buy something in the market, it just makes sense. You type something out on Google Translate and you communicate that way. But let's go cycling. I noticed he landed in Dumai in Sumatra, and he tried to do a few things. Like he went up to the ticket counter. Well, this was way back in Malaysia, I think. And he went up to the ticket counter to buy the ticket, and he didn't understand what the Malaysian man said. And he said, "What? Like what?" In English. Like he says it really quickly too. Just he doesn't say what. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. He just says, what? Like almost like a bark. And of course the other person is like, what do you mean? What? That he says that over and over. And when he landed in Sumatra, everything he was trying to do, he wanted to buy a sun hat, like the kind of hat that people wear when they're in the rice fields, the rice paddy hats, famous in Vietnam, and they make them in Sumatra as well. Really nice ones, high quality ones. And he saw a guy at the side of the road. This is in his video. And he has a cart full of woven products for sale, including the kind of a rice hat. And then he was sort of pointing at the hat. And then the guy said something. Basically, I understood what the man said in Indonesian. He basically said 50,000 rupiah. He was giving him the price because he's selling things. So he said, 50,000 for that. And then the Let's Go Cycling guy, of course, he doesn't understand what he said. And he just said, what? And the guy repeated 50,000 rupiah. And the Let's Go Cycling, what? He said that to everybody, every Indonesian he ran into. He's like, what? Anyway, I thought that was kind of amusing. But he gets it done eventually. He did buy one of those hats. And he modified it. He had to cut out part of it to make it fit on his head properly, protect him from the sun. And the next video, number 2 from Sumatra, is called A Night in a Dangerous Place. This is why they told me to leave. And of course, I instantly had a little bit of a negative reaction to that because it's straying into clickbait, which I'm never a fan of. It's like a night in a dangerous place. Ooh, this is why they told me to leave. And my brain immediately goes to, well, they're telling him to leave the country. Like, get out of Indonesia, get out of here, it's too dangerous. And I started thinking he was attacked. There were, something terrible happened. Kind of clickbait. And he kept it a mystery at first. He was riding his bike, and then he was looking for a campsite, and it was nighttime, so it was completely dark. So you don't see any people in the video, but you hear the audio, and he was asking people for permission to put up his tent, to camp here. And it was kind of unusual. You don't often hear people say no, but in this case, it was an Indonesian man speaking English, and he says, no. And then this kind of startled the Let's Go Cycling guy. And he's trying to specify can versus can't. But because he's not a native speaker of English, even to my ears, they sounded the same when he said it. It's like, are you saying I can stay here or I can stay here? He was trying to say can and can't, but he wasn't hitting the T, so they sounded the same. And then the guy said, no. And then he said something in English or a little bit in Indonesian, telling him, no, you can't stay here. And I don't think he understood what the problem was. Like, what do you mean I can't? Nope. What? Can't. What? Can? I can? Or I can? Or I can't? Anyway, they went around, and then the video cuts forward in time to him inside his tent, and he was talking about what a difficult day it had been. And then he said, I've been cycling. Again, he tried to say a number. I'm not sure if it was 15 or 50, probably 15. But he said, I've been cycling 15 kilometers in the dark, trying to find a place where I can camp. And they're telling him, I can't. But then he finally convinced somebody to let him. He's like, just one night, can I stay one night? And he said, I'll tell you in the morning why they won't let me camp here. And then he got out of his tent. Now, he didn't stretch this time. In this video, he didn't stretch. And it turned out the problem, a very clear and obvious one, was he was right beside an oil and gas pipeline. Because when you come from Dumai, from all of these oil production centers, they've built pipelines that follow the road. And I saw it, like when I was cycling there, you're riding right beside these pipelines the entire time. And of course, there's a lot of security concerns around these pipelines, either vandals breaking them or explosions, open flames. They can't have people messing around with these expensive pipelines. There's a lot of security in that area because of that. And that's why they didn't want him. They said, no, you can't sleep here at night because you're right beside this pipeline. And it would be pretty hard to get away from it because he could ride for another 20 kilometers up the highway and the pipeline is still going to be right there because it goes alongside the highway. But he finally, figured that out. And they told him, okay, you can stay here one night, but no flames. Like you can't cook, you can't start a fire, you can't, because of the oil and gas. So that's what was going on there. And he left from that site, and he kept cycling, and he went to a place called, I was very pleased with this, Bangkinang. He said, this road goes to Pekanbaru, the main road, and then he says, I'm not going to Pekanbaru, I'm going to go this road to Bangkinang. And I was happy about that because I also stayed in Bangkinang. Like when I did that bike ride, right out of the beginning, my right knee gave me a lot of trouble. I couldn't really ride. So then I rode to Pekanbaru because there's an immigration office there and my visa was about to expire. So I got my visa extension and I was in Pekanbaru for a week and a half, just resting, just walking. I rode my bike around the city. I wasn't an invalid or anything. But it was only when I was going uphill with a heavy load that my knee was really painful and I couldn't ride. But I waited in Pekanbaru for like a week and a half to recover. And then I got back on my bike and I left Pekanbaru and I rode just a short distance to Bangkinang, which is the next small town up the road. And it was only a few 40, 50 kilometers away. And my knee gave out on me before I got to that town. So then I stayed in Bangkinang for like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, just resting up, waiting for my knee to recover. So again, it was very much like Dumai, Tanjung Balai, Bangkinang. It's just an ordinary Sumatran town. And when he was there, he kind of looked at, on his bike, he was talking about how boring everything is. Like, down here, there's nothing interesting. It's so boring. So he said, I'm riding really, really fast because I want to get to West Sumatra. Because he was in Riau province. Riau province is where Dumai is, and Bangkinang and Pekanbaru, all the oil drilling sites, that's all there. And it's relatively flat. And then when you leave Riau and get into West Sumatra, that's where the mountains are, Bukit Tinggi. And then when you come down the other side, you've got the coastline, Padang. So that's the tourism area for that part of Sumatra, West Sumatra, with all the mountains and beautiful scenery. So he was still in the flat Riau area, and he says, I just want to get out of here as fast as possible. So even though he did go to Bangkinang, I was hoping he was going to spend the night there and go out on the town, and I could recognize all the places that I know, all the places I used to eat, and the markets I went to, and things like that, the coffee shops. But he just blew through the town out the other end. And he doesn't post like Google Maps or flyover videos or Strava, but I recognize so many things on the road there because I also rode there. So I could follow his journey on Google Maps, and I know exactly where he went. And then the video suddenly jumps ahead to him pushing his bike. He's got a really heavy load on his bike. He's carrying a lot of gear. So his bike is really heavy. And he was pushing his bike up a hill, and he says, this hill is really, really steep. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. I recognized the road. I recognized the hill instantly. And I had to push my bike up part of that hill. I couldn't ride up it. It was way, way too steep. Some of it you could do on my bike. And then you got to the very last part. It was just straight up. It looks a bit deceiving because of the way the hills are around it. It doesn't look as steep as it actually is because there's some sort of optical illusion, but it's like, so steep. So he pushed his bike all the way to the top. And then there's this beautiful lookout area, and has all these restaurants there with it's right on the edge of a cliff, and you look down over this lake system it's part from a dam. They dammed the river there and made this big lake system. And I recognized all of that. I went there as well. He stopped to get a cold drink, get something to eat. And I stopped at the same place to get a cold drink, something to eat. And then he rode down from there into the town, across a bridge, looking out at the lakes. And then that's where the video ends. And he says, beautiful place here. I'm going to spend the night camping beside this lake somewhere. And that's where his video ended. And I did the same thing. I spent the night in my tent, beside that lake as well. So it's fun for me now watching his videos because he's going along the same road that I went on. And it'll be interesting, to follow the rest of it. And unfortunately, like I said, he's not going to talk a lot. He's not going to tell stories or dive into things too deeply. But for me, it's still pretty entertaining to watch him stretch every time he comes out of the tent. And then, what? We'll see if he ever switches over to because everybody in the comments is telling him, like, Google Translate, dude, you have to use Google Translate, because he just came from Malaysia and he has a big following in Malaysia now. Everybody's following his journey, and so all these Malaysians are watching these videos and they're all telling him, Indonesia, it's not the same as Malaysia. They don't speak English, so you're going to have to use Google Translate. And one thing I noticed, which it isn't a huge surprise, it's pretty common on YouTube travel videos, but it's extreme here. And I think it's really extreme because most of the people leaving comments are Malaysians. And the vast majority of the comments are telling him basically to be careful, that Compared to Malaysia, Sumatra is like the wild, wild west. And it's comment after comment after comment telling him, oh, you have to be very, very careful. There are so many thieves there, so many bad people. They will rob you. Don't trust the people. Everyone will ask you for money. And the road is dangerous. And this is dangerous. And that is dangerous. And everything's going to kill you. And I think I copy and pasted one comment as an example. Oh, here it is here. This is from somebody in Malaysia left this comment. Hopefully you don't get stripped, robbed, and your bicycle stolen, and you remain in one piece. If you are in trouble, please shout for help. But remember, don't call the police there for help. They are the most dangerous thugs in police uniform. But one good thing is the people there like to selfie with white people. Bule. So that's pretty, hopefully you don't get stripped, robbed, and your bicycle stolen, and don't go to the police. They're thugs. Pretty extreme view of Sumatra. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Sumatra, and I can tell you that this has got nothing to do with reality. As a foreigner there, it's perfectly safe. The police are not thugs in uniforms. I mean, I did have my phone stolen. I've told that story many times. A snatched thief on a scooter, on a motorcycle, grabbed my phone and took off. So I was robbed there, but I mean, that can happen anywhere at any time, anywhere in the world. And then I did go to the police, and the police were nothing but professional and helpful and concerned, and they were not thugs in uniform. So whoever this person is, they have a very negative view of Sumatra, and a lot of the comments from Malaysians were like that, either very concerned for his health and safety or very concerned about the dangers of being robbed in Sumatra, that there's so many bad people there. But it's all fairly exaggerated in my opinion. I find Sumatra to be an extremely friendly and welcoming place. And of course there are thieves, but there's thieves everywhere. So yeah, is there anything else about Let's Go Cycling that I wanted to mention? No, I think that is pretty much it. And yeah. And I think I will end my YouTube travel stories there. Briefly, Itchy Boots is on her book tour now. And interestingly enough, I haven't watched her videos from Saudi Arabia, but I didn't even watch this video, but I saw it where she was in Scotland, I think, and she went to Yamaha, and they gave her, lent her a motorcycle to use. She's using like a Tenerife motorcycle, a 750, to travel around the world, but hers dates from the late 80s or mid 80s. And Yamaha, because she's famous and they get good advertising, they lent her a brand new, 2025 750 Yamaha Tenerife. So she's riding the same brand of motorbike. It looks very, very similar. And riding around Scotland, going on all these book tours. Man, she's got a pretty good life, pretty exciting life to do that. But that's what Itchy Boots is doing. But I didn't really watch the video that much. That's it, YouTube vlogger stories. All right, shutting down this video, whatever it is, Planet Doug podcast behind the scenes, because I started off shooting video just walking around. My original idea was to do this, just tell stories, but do it while I'm walking around the city. Kill two birds with one stone, go out exploring, run errands, meet up with friends, and then I can record stories while I'm walking, while I'm on the MRT, things like that. But it never seems to work out. It doesn't feel right to me to do that because I get distracted. I mentioned that in this video. You're out walking around and I keep getting interrupted because I have to stop and do something, or I see something interesting and the storytelling doesn't flow as well. So I prefer to do it like this if I can. But anyway, for this video, I decided to experiment a little bit. So when I went to A&W to shoot a video, I shot the behind the scenes video / podcast on the way to A&W, and then I shot the Planet Doug video at A&W, and then I continued filming returning from that trip. And then when I met Daryl for coffee in the morning and we went out for lunch, I folded that into this podcast. It should actually be a standalone Planet Doug video. But to be honest, when Daryl invited me, when we made arrangements to go out for breakfast, I didn't know where we were going. Like Daryl did say, yeah, there's somewhere special he wants to show me, but I didn't know how special. I think had I known maybe how special it was, I would have filmed that as a Planet Doug video and then kind of made a video about that place. But I also didn't want to do that because I knew Daryl was going to film a video for his channel. So I don't want to step on his toes. I'm going with him. So he's shooting a Wander Eats video about that cafe. So I'm comfortable like sort of being in the background, and I shoot a little bit of casual behind the scenes video, which I feels better than me also trying to make a video about that cafe, because it's his discovery and it's his video, and I let him do the main video and I shot a little bit behind the scenes, casually. So that's how that worked out. All right, so that's it for this video. I don't even know how long it is once I stitch all of this together, and my voice is starting to run out. Time to head outside, get something to eat, and run some errands, things like that. And so thank you for hanging out with me here on this podcast behind the scenes video. Go check out the Planet Doug Patreon if you're in the mood. Photos and little bonus clips and stories there all the time, little updates. And of course there is the main Planet Doug channel and the Planet Doug behind the scenes channel. And this video of course is on behind the scenes, so you already know about that. So that's it, shutting down, and I'll see you in the next video.